Hey, this is Bruce Boudreau, and you're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mack, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 147 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Nick Manella. How we doing, my friend?
Doing well, man. It's been a minute. I know we took a week off there. Glad to have everyone back here and fired up to get into honestly what's probably going to be like a 2 to 3 hour episode from what we're looking at right now.
We got a long one on tap. If you're with us, sit tight, grab a drink, and relax. We got a big interview that we'll announce here shortly, and then we got a lot of news to cover after missing a week of the pod. I am now going to toss it across the screen to my other co-host up in Wisconsin, Mac Vogel. How you doing, my friend?
Feeling good, like I should in the neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Not as loud of a pop as I was hoping for, but hopefully you're watching on YouTube. You get the visual going.
What is on tap there? What's happening over there?
Give me some ASMR.
It's one of those little it's basically like a pre-made old-fashioned type shit.
Okay.
It's slow and low, rock and rye.
Nice.
Better than you would think it would be though. Like actually pretty good, and it's always like $3.99. It's like always sitting at the fucking register at the liquor store. That's how they get you, you know.
Yeah, you can't afford not to.
But it's in a pinch, it does. You just crack it open, single serve, and pour over ice.
Could I please have you put that pea-sized can up next to your face?
Yeah, it's funny, right?
So put it next to your face and smile for like a thumbnail, and also so I can see how big it is. So it goes from like your chin to your ear, basically.
Here, let's put it next to a real beer can.
Okay. We're doing science here on Empty Betters. Yeah. Okay.
Now
I get it better.
Yeah, it's just a cute little guy, you know?
Yeah. Bad radio, great YouTube. You know the drill.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the picture of Andre the Giant, like holding like a normal beer can.
It is great to have both of you back on the set. It's been about I feel like it's been a month since all three of us were together. We had Nick out. Now he's like kind of recovering from being blind. So that's cool. Mac was out 1 week. And then we had a week off. So it's definitely
dead. I was actually dead for a little while.
Yeah, you were dead.
Yeah, that didn't sound good. Glad you're okay.
Yeah, get your flu shot. PSA. I did not and regretted
it. Yeah, this winter's been brutal. All right, a couple house cleaning things, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. So first off, big announcement, unrelated to anything interview or news-wise. We are coming to Milwaukee, the great state of Wisconsin. Me and Nick's second home, I guess you could say, for the podcast.
The good land.
Yeah.
We will be up in downtown Milwaukee on January 21st. That's a Saturday. We will be having a watch party for the St. Louis Blues versus Chicago Blackhawks game that evening at Elwood's. Is it Elwood's like tap house? Mac, do you know?
I believe it's Elwood's Tap and Liquor officially, but yeah, it's on Water Street, right downtown. If you know Milwaukee, if you don't, buy your plane tickets and make a weekend out of it.
I'm not suggesting that like anyone fly to Milwaukee just for this event, but if you were going to fly to Milwaukee to go to a bar, I would say Elwood's is probably top 3 on that list.
Especially if you're a hockey fan, which you should be if you're listening to us speak right now.
It's a great spot. We went there last time we were up in Milwaukee. The staff is great. They have great promos. So we're really excited. Should be a good time. We also will probably have playoff football on some of the other TVs. So come hang out, drink some beers. Should be
good
fun.
Point. I didn't even think about the football thing. You're right.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, the divisional weekend, the wild card weekend's right before. For anyone who is going to be there in person, we will have a couple of surprises for you people. I don't want to give too many details, but we will be bringing some stuff with us. So if you show up, definitely want to say hi and maybe grab something on your way out. I'll leave it.
Good chance you won't leave empty-handed if you come through. So.
Absolutely. So we're super excited for that. Again, January 21st at Elwood's in downtown Milwaukee. Book it on your calendar. We will be there. Next thing, today's interview guest. Awesome interview. We did this over the weekend. We're recording this on December 14th. I think we did it this past Saturday morning. Rob Schremp, a legend of YouTube highlights for hockey in the early 2010s, late 2000s. For any of you who don't know who he was an NHLer, played for the Islanders. That's probably his most notable team that he played for in his career. Beat Sidney Crosby in the 2005 Memorial Cup. We talk about that. He's a stick handling guru. I would say he probably inspired the entire like lacrosse goal generation type thing going on right now with Zegras and all that. So we talk about stick handling, very similar to our John Schiavo interview from a couple, maybe not a couple years ago, maybe a year ago. If you're new here, so go check that out too. But he joined us. It was a great time. Had a great chat. So we'll do that interview in a second. But before we do, I think Mac has a question of the day, and then we want to ask him about his experience at the United Center last night for Ovi's 800th goal.
All right, let's knock this question out real quick. I thought of this one when I was stuck in some horrible traffic on the way home today. If this podcast was in an alternate reality and it was not about ice hockey and gambling, what would each of you want it to be about? Assuming that it would like be equally or if not more successful than it currently is.
That's a good one.
That's a really good question. Nick, I feel like I know. Well, I think I know
what both of you are gonna say, but let's see.
You feel like you know what I'm gonna say?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I do.
I think I do.
I think I was just gonna say, like, is it bad that I would say alcohol between like beer, whiskey, and wine? Like we would just come on here and like literally drink and talk about that kind of stuff.
That was actually my secondary answer, so I'm glad you said it, so I
Okay.
can just keep my first answer. But that, I mean, it's true.
What did you think I was gonna say?
I know what Mac's
pretty much what I thought you were going to say, but the other thing that I thought you might say is my first answer. So I'll get to that in a second.
I know yours.
Okay, now I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Yours is music. It has to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of I knew that
it'd be the same format. Like we'd be like interviewing like
the same
coming like up and coming musical artists.
It's the first 3 minutes of every podcast.
Exactly. And doing news around the music industry world and shit like that. No gambling. I mean, I guess we couldn't really.
What do you think mine would be? I'm actually curious. I have one in mind. It might be kind of obvious. I don't know though.
Maybe like food or something. I feel like you're into cooking. Like
yeah, I was gonna
recipes
say
or like
I would love to do
like
a cooking / like restaurant rating podcast.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that sounds cool. I would listen to that. I would listen to you doing that.
Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Maybe that's a future business idea. I don't know, but I love
when this one crashes and burns.
Yeah, right. I love restaurants. I really do. I like rating them, specifically Mexican ones. There's a place called Taco Mama that just opened up across the street down on Fort Ave, and I haven't tried it yet, and I walk by it every day, and it's killing me. So
groundbreaking quote from Harrison Schultz. I love restaurants. I really do.
Especially Mexican ones.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Put that on a plaque.
I would like, if you did like one of those like Friday beer style, like Rusty Ranks videos, it's like where you just like go to a place and start eating tacos until you're like about to throw up. I think that would be hysterical.
Also, I don't know why I'm asking this, but I guess like I thought of like other ideas. I feel like you guys are big into like old school cartoons or like TV series. Have you been watching what's that show called that everyone's watching now? The White Lotus or something like that?
I've seen all of it, both seasons.
Is it worth the hype?
I like it a lot. I think season 1 is better. I like a lot of the actors and actresses in season 2. Like some of my favorite actors and actresses are in season 2, so I really like that. But I'd say season 1 is a little bit better, like writing and like more satisfying ending and all that stuff. But I'd say it's worth your time. It's pretty short. It's like I think season 1 is 6 episodes. Season 2 is like 7.
Or like an hour each.
Mm-hmm.
So without too many spoiler alerts, I looked it up because I was like, "What's this about?" It's labeled as like a satire comedy, but is it like kind of weird?
It's like a dark comedy. It's like a thriller with some funny stuff mixed in. Honestly, it's like there's like. It's basically like a hotel resort and there's various guests and they kind of bounce around from all their storylines and they end up all sort of intertwining in different ways. But there's like a it's kind of like a murder mystery at the same time. Like
Like they're
basically
all
show
terrible
you
people, right?
kind in different ways. Yeah, they're all trying to figure their shit out, and they all have a different like vice that's like fucking with them. And they'll like basically they'll, and this isn't really a spoiler because they'll show you this in the first like 5 minutes of episode 1, but there's like a death at the beginning of the show, and they don't really show details, but they're just like, oh my god, someone's dead. And then they go like 2 weeks earlier, and then you're trying to figure out the whole time like who's gonna be the one that dies.
Okay. That now
It's
now
a
it makes
fun
more
watch.
sense.
It's like that's the best way I could describe it. It's just like a very fun, entertaining watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was just curious because it's all over Twitter and I'm seeing all these memes and I'm like the one guy in like a 6-person group chat, just like, I don't know
I
what
think
you're
you'd
talking
like it.
about.
I feel like you should watch it like with your girlfriend. Like it's a good
Okay.
show like for that.
Noted. All right. I'll have to get on that. And then obviously we have to ask you, you were at the United Center last night for Ovechkin's 800th goal. Not only did he score 800, he scored it in a hat trick. And you bet him to score a hat trick before the game at plus what, 2,800? That's got to be the biggest.
I think I sadly got it at plus 1,800. When I first looked at it, it was like plus 2,400, and then I waited a couple hours, and then I like actually placed it, and I want to say it was like plus 1,800. But the bet was I risked $8 to win 152.
Steal.
Had to risk the lucky number 8 for his number. Anytime I bet like an OV goal bet, I always do $8 or something like that. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, this was honestly like just such a legendary night. I'm still trying to like wrap my head around whether or not it was even real. Like it felt so surreal from start to finish for a lot of reasons. I'll try to keep this quick, but basically I try to go to every year when the Caps are in town once a year to play the Hawks. I try to go to that game. Didn't think it was going to happen this year because I have a new job. I'm at the office till 5 most days. And around that time of day on a weekday, it'll take you a good like 2 hours to get to Chicago. Similar to the Baltimore to DC commute for those East Coast listeners. It's like could be an hour or it could be like 3 hours, depending on what time of the day you leave. So the only reason I ended up being able to go to the game is because ESPN picked up this game like a week ago for some reason and moved the start time to 8 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. And that worked out beautifully for me. I left work, quick stopped at home, changed my clothes, threw my OV jersey on, and then headed to United Center. Literally walked in, like couldn't have been more perfect. Walked in at like 7:45, caught like the last like 2 minutes of warm-ups, got a beer, sat down, and everything started. So it was picture
Question.
perfect.
Did you pay for the beer?
I did actually.
Okay.
You'd be proud of me or disappointed. I'm not sure. But yeah, paid for the beer, which is even. I don't want to talk about the price in Chicago. It's really fucked up, but I can justify it because I didn't have to pay for the ticket. Shout out to my dad's mutual friend with the Blackhawks who hooked us up with probably the nicest tickets I've ever had for any game. We were like 3 rows behind the penalty box and like dead center ice. It was pretty sweet. Hopefully you saw some of the videos on the EB story last night. But anyway, I'll cut to the chase here. I took my roommate who had never been to an NHL hockey game before. So that was pretty cool for him too. And I gave him the whole spiel on the way down. I was like, listen, like some crazy shit might happen tonight. Here's what you need to know. I also like I just can't explain how I just kind of like knew he was going to score 3 goals last night. Like I placed the bet. I literally brought a beanie with me to throw on the ice because I was like, he's going to get a hat trick, and I'm wearing a hat. I'm wearing this one, but I don't want to lose this one. So I'm bringing a spare hat so I can have something to throw when he gets a hat trick because he's going to. And sure enough, like 24 seconds, I think, into the first period, he gets the first one. And right then I was like, oh, it's happening. Like it's happening.
Yeah.
2 goals in the first and the third one in the third period. What I really want to make sure I say here, I cannot emphasize enough how classy the Chicago Blackhawks fans were about this entire situation. It was pretty awesome to see, honestly. Like this, I mean, it's an original 6 franchise, right? So this is a a hockey fan base that knows hockey. They're not idiots. They knew what was going on from the very beginning. Like as soon as he scored that first goal, everyone in the building had that on their mind. They were like, holy shit, we might be able to see like something crazy happen tonight. And every time he was out there, like Blackhawks fans were like, get the puck to Ovi. Like people wanted to see this happen.
Yeah.
And that was just really interesting to me. And like people were talking to me about it because I was wearing the Ovi jersey, and people were like, dude, that'd be so cool if we all got to see that tonight. And when he finally got it, like all the Hawks fans were on their feet chanting OV, OV.
That's cool.
It was awesome. And he gave a little salute, skated around center ice for a few minutes, and everybody was just really in shock and in awe. And yeah, it was an incredible experience. Only bad part about the whole thing is as soon as he scored the goal, I jumped up. I had a pretty full beer at the moment, and it was a draft. It was not in a can. I jump up and I'm like, oh my God. I'm freaking out, and I'm fumbling around to try to get this beanie like out of my coat pocket and fling that shit on the ice. And as I do this, a little bit of beer, okay, I'm talking like a splash, like pops out of the glass and like onto the dude's shoulder who's sitting right in front of me. And he's like some old guy. He's like gotta be like, I don't know, 60, 70, something like that. He's not wearing like a white jersey, or he's wearing like a dark blue quarter zip, and like a little bit of his shoulder got wet, right? And I'm going crazy. I was just like, I noticed it happened, but I was like, ah, fuck, oh well, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm celebrating, and this man literally like turns around, and he's a Blackhawks fan. He turns around, and he's like pointing at his shoulder, and he's like, oh, you spilled all over me. And I was like, sorry, buddy. Like, I don't know what you
What
want
does
me
he
to
want you to
Did
say?
you hit the 60-year-old man with a buddy?
I did. I literally said,
Yeah.
sorry, buddy. Like, I don't know what the fuck you want me to do.
Hell
in that
yeah.
situation, man.
Well,
Like,
'cause
sorry, you're freaking. I am sorry. I'm sorry. I spilled some freaking beer on your shoulder, but guess what? I don't really care at all.
Right.
Now.
That was the
Like,
800th. That was the hat trick goal.
Yeah, that was the hat trick
What
goal.
a loser.
He's
And
lucky.
everybody's-
He's lucky
yeah.
he didn't get a beer shower. Let's be honest.
Literally, I was
Yeah.
like, it'd be one thing if I like spilled it all over his head or something, or like my whole freaking cup like left my hand and went all over. It was like a splash that jumped out of the cup. Like I still had like my full beer in my hand. And I was like, all right, buddy, I really don't care. So
Right.
Like at that point, assuming it's like a drop, like you're saying, what you're fishing for someone to like apologize. And
I
at
don't
that
know what
point-
you wanted me to do.
Yeah.
He didn't even have a beer. And it's not like he spilled his beer. I'm not going to buy him a
Right.
beer because I spilled beer. Like,
Like that
Yeah.
could have like happened just as easily as you like walking to your seat in front of him and
Yeah,
like trying to do
exactly.
like the little
Sure.
shuffle. Like,
right.
yeah.
and given what just happened, like have a little situational awareness. One thing if he gets showered, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not the case, right?
No,
So I don't know.
exactly.
It's just
Have
like,
some,
what do you-
have some awareness for what's going on and whatever. And actually, he ended up leaving like 10 minutes later. And,
Good, fuck him.
And the Blackhawks fan next to him, who was like a younger guy, probably around our age, he for some reason didn't like this guy's vibe either. Because as soon as the guy got up and left, he was like, "Bye, fuck you, you're a loser."
Yeah,
I don't know what
yeah.
his beef was with him, but he didn't like him either. So
So I have to ask you, some of the pictures that you sent, was that you in the locker room or was that your dad's
no,
pictures
that
you
one
sent
was
to
from
you?
my dad.
I was
That
gonna
was a pretty
say.
cool photo that he got. The one of Ovi holding the 3 pucks. And the other one was actually a really cool moment of last night was after the game. I got to go like behind the Caps bench, and they're breaking down United Center, getting ready for like Bulls the next day or whatever. But there's probably, I don't know, a dozen family and friends type people who are just like waiting to see either employees or players who are going to quick say hi before they have to fly back to DC. So we're waiting there, and my dad eventually comes up, and it was great to see him even just for 15, 20 minutes and take a photo and unpack that moment together. But it was when he was leaving from that little interaction we had to head back through the locker room and to the bus to get to the airport that he passed like Ovi's locker and saw the hats piled up there and like the Ovi jersey hanging and like a Budweiser on the top. And he was just like, that's a sweet photo. I
That's
gotta
sick.
snap that.
That was
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. What a night. Like, honestly, the way that you even like kind of laid out the story, like the time change happens for the game because it gets national. So
Yep.
you get to go. And then
Yep.
you know someone who gets you not only like good seats, like great seats,
Yeah.
and you bring the spare hat. Like it
Yeah.
just lines up so perfect. And
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I said at the beginning, I'm still trying to like wrap my head around that like last night was real. And I I drove home. It's a little quicker driving home late at night. It probably only took us like, I don't know, hour and 20 minutes or something. But I got home at like 1 a.m. and I didn't fall asleep till like close to 2:30 because I was so like.
Did you just watch the highlights over and over again?
Literally, I was just
Yeah.
in bed, like scrolling Twitter, watching like a million different like videos and like audio versions of it, and like just can't believe it. But
that's awesome. I'm glad you got to see that. That's got to be one of, if not the coolest sporting event you've seen live.
that was originally going to be my question of the day for tonight. But I didn't want to do it because I don't know my answer. I'm fortunate enough that I've seen a lot of really cool moments, mostly Caps related stuff. But that's 100% like got to be top 5, maybe top 3. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
cool.
fewer people have scored 800 goals than have landed on the moon. Just think about that.
Damn,
Isn't that
when you put
wild?
it that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So you
And
saw him get 799, or you saw him get 798, 799, and 800. I'm going tomorrow night, tonight, when you guys are
Ooh.
listening to this, and have potentially the chance to see him if he keeps this up to tie and or pass Gordie Howe.
So what?
One-
1 to tie and 2 to break.
1 to
Yeah.
tie, 2 to pass.
One thing I want to note before we move on from this topic, I feel so bad for one guy. And this is a guy who's been on our podcast before. I'd like to call him a friend of the program if I have the honor of doing so. Joe Beninati did not get to call last game, did not
That
get to
sucks.
go to last game because it got picked up by ESPN.
Sucks.
Him and Locker were in Winnipeg with the team, flew to Chicago, and then flew home from Chicago before the game because they just weren't calling it because it's an ESPN game or whatever.
clip this and tag Joe. Joe, we love you. Thank
Yep.
you.
And by the way, the ESPN call was so lame.
Can we get into this?
So
Well,
freaking
first of all,
boring.
Harry and I were watching on ESPN, and we only got to see 2 of his goals because
Yeah,
the
I
first
heard
one
about that.
Dude,
they
They
didn't
freaking
even
suck.
show it because they're
My
showing
grandfather was pissed about that.
They
unbelievable.
suck.
He watches
They're
every
so
game on
bad.
TV, and he was on Facebook today ranting about. He was like, that was the worst. Like,
It's
TV
some of the worst
ever.
coverage of sports I think I've ever seen.
Who gives a
I
fuck
would
about Chris Chelios talking about some bullshit? Like,
They're reading the Hawks starting lineup. It's like, if you
Dude,
want to read an
no.
AHL starting lineup, I'll get you the Hershey Bears. Like,
by the
come
way,
on.
when they read the lineup in the stands, I was like, who are you people? Like the Patrick, like, who are you people? Like,
Dude, they are horrible. And also,
so
shout out
bad.
to another friend of the program who's been on interview guest, John Walton. That was an awesome call for the radio.
So good. So
Great
good.
call.
Anyone who's like posting the video should just dub that over because it's so much more electric.
I'm done watching ESPN coverage. It's like
They suck, dude.
I'm gonna mute it. And
I
put
wish
the
it at
radio
least could have been
coverage
like
on.
TNT or something. They would have done a little better
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Like,
a
but-
lot better. Well, no, they're not even on the same.
But it's
I'm gonna
but it's
get
not
heated
even
now.
the announcers that
Yeah.
are like the good part of TNT.
But like,
it's like the intermission
Kenny
guys,
Albert
so.
would have given it some like emotion.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
TNT and ESPN are completely different animals.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
don't even put them in the same stratosphere. And I had a fight with my friend about this. He's like, TNT seems forced. I was like, it's not forced. It's good for
No,
hockey. Like,
it's
what are
good.
you talking about?
It's good.
ESPN,
It's
Chris
sports
Chelios is
television.
drunk.
It's all forced.
Chris Chelios is on something. He's got to be
Well-
on Xannies or some shit. He's just like, he's like kind of like reading and he's like drooping and it's like slowly like getting lower. Oh my God. It's ESPN's horrible. And Steve Levy needs to retire. That guy stinks. I can't stand him.
It's
I
just
dread hitting channel 850 on Comcast. I can't stand it. I'd rather listen to like Lifetime Network and Spanish call that than those
Wow.
motherfuckers get it. They drive me nuts. Anyways. All right, I'm done. Sorry.
No, it's pretty bad. I think it really did a disservice to the moment.
Ugh, awful. Don't get me started.
One last thing, and then I swear we can move on. Kind of funny that all three of the goals were just like garbage goals, like no signature one-timers. He was just freaking like on a mission to just like take out the trash last night.
I do love there was like 4 chances leading up to the third goal where it's like guys were just passing up like
they were looking
like
they were
3
passing
feet
it
of
to
open
him
net
when he was
like,
not open at all. Like
Yeah.
there's a few times where he was so covered and they're trying to like force passes to him, and I was like, stop.
Oh God. I'm still I was listening to that, but I'm still triggered by the ESPN stuff. Like I'm just thinking about the intermission panel, and like I was trying to think of would you rather like watch Chelios, Steve Levy, and Messier talk about whatever stupid game that they have on television, or would you rather insert blank? Maybe that's a question we
watch
can
like
ask
the
our...
fucking Bachelor or something like that.
Yeah. Honest to God, because I just watched The Bachelor like this past season because I've been forced to now, apparently. I'd rather watch The Bachelor. I'm not even joking.
Dude, I mean,
swear
like,
to
you
God.
know, pound for pound, like if you get drunk enough, that show makes you feel great about yourself.
Oh yeah,
That's a good point.
Absolutely. Now that we've had our 35-minute intro, and I'm sure Rob Schremp is listening, like, what the fuck? We are actually going to get into our interview here right now with Robbie Schremp. Want to remind you guys that this interview is brought to you by Brackish Life. Let's take a minute to talk about Brackish Life. If you're like us and grew up on the water and outdoors, then Brackish Life is perfect for you. They have a wide selection of gear from UV shirts to hoodies and hats. It's Real Bay apparel made by Real Bay people. Head to www.brackish.life today to check them out. A little salty, a little fresh, Brackish Life. Did not have the ad read in front of me. Just want to note that.
That was damn impressive.
Thank you. We'll get to the news after the interview, but for right now, we're going to toss it off to Rob Schremp right now.
It's now my pleasure to welcome onto the Empty Betters podcast, Mr. Rob Schremp. Rob, thanks so much for joining us all the way from Latvia. We really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like we do with all of our guests, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about, who you are, where you grew up, and how you got into hockey in the first place?
Yeah, so my name's Rob Schremp, obviously. I grew up in upstate New York, Fulton, New York. Lived there until I was 15, until I moved on to junior hockey. I started playing hockey. My uncle was into it big time with my 2 cousins, Jeff and Chris Schremp. They played. They were a little bit older than my brother and I. So we kind of grew up watching them. They were about, let's say 12 or 13 years older than us. So when we were about 3 or 4 years old, we were kind of watching them play, going to the rink, watching them skate and watching them play high school hockey. And that kind of was our start in the game. And that's how it all happened. Just from watching in the Fulton ice rink. So grew a passion for it. And then we started playing at 4. Both my brother and I started playing. He's 3 years older than me, but when I was 4 years old, I started playing and picked it up from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fulton, New York, you're not too far from Kingston, Ontario, I believe.
Yeah, it's about an hour and 30 minutes, roughly. It's really short drive, actually, up north.
Okay, so was the youth hockey scene pretty big up there?
In Kingston, we played a ton of tournaments when I got a little bit older, like 10, 11 years, no, probably like 11, 12 years old. We played a bunch of, tournaments up there because the hockey was great, especially spring hockey. A lot of the AAA teams got together and like you organized different players than what you play with during the year. So some of those tournaments up in Kingston, Smith Falls, Ottawa, there's a lot of pretty great competition for us to come from the States up there to go to. So played a bunch up there as a kid.
Harry, I think you're muted.
Oops, I was muted. Sorry about that. So you obviously had some success with the Syracuse Junior Crunch, and then you make your way up into the OHL. Do you want to talk about your experience with Mississauga and London?
Yeah. So I started out I was fortunate enough at 14 to play for the Syracuse Junior Crunch because it gave me the ability to play really pretty high level hockey at 14, 15 years old, where had it not been for that, I probably would have had to move at 14 because I just got to a level playing Bantam majors at 12 and 13. I was, succeeding and having, I was ready to move up. So it was great to have that team there. Don Kernan had the team there. We got to stay home, live at home for a couple extra years. And then, that helped me kind of springboard into being first overall draft pick in Mississauga. So got lucky, Don Cherry drafted me in the OHL first overall for the Mississauga Ice Dogs. And
That's awesome.
Got a chance to meet them and the staff. It was pretty cool. And then the weird thing was they drafted me, and then like a month later they sold the team. So it was a little bit weird, but the people that came in were awesome. Steve Ludzig was amazing, and him and his family were amazing to my family and myself. And that was probably one of my best years as a junior, getting to play for Steve Ludzig. He really taught me a ton, just about taking the game to the next level. And it was awesome. That first year was really great, and some great players, Greg Jacina, Daniel Siska, Patrick O'Sullivan. We had some really good players there as well. So it was a fun year. Matt Timmons is a guy from around the Kingston area. Awesome dude. Had a blast my first year, my rookie season. And again, it was a lot to do with the good group of guys in the room, but also Steve Ludzig taught me a ton, about the game. So it was fortunate enough to land there.
What was the experience in London like? I mean, obviously that program has just grown into what you could kind of say is like the Alabama football of, OHL programs that, it's just so highly revered. What was your time like there?
It was great. We won a ton of games. I learned a lot about the game as well from Dale Hunter. I mean, he had an unbelievable hockey career, and he's got a probably even better coaching career. At the time, he was a young coach, recently retired, but he had so much passion and drive to win. Him and his brother Mark Hunter. So the way that they set that up, it's in London. It's all about winning, and it's all about producing top end players. So it was a great experience. Got a chance to go there with some awesome players like Corey Perry, David Boland, Brandon Pruss. My first year, Dennis Weidman, Danny Bois. Just met a ton of great people. You go down the list, probably spend an hour just talking about the people I got to play with there. But the experience was it was unique. The first year got there, we had a lot of expectations as a team, and we ended up falling short to a really good hockey team in Guelph. They had Kevin Klein, Ryan Callahan, Marty St. Pierre. They had Cam Jansen as a tough guy. They had a lot of really good players. So we fell short the first year. Unfortunately, during the regular season, we only lost, I think, 12 games that year. And then we ended up falling short in the Game 7 at home of the Western Conference Finals. The next year, we came back really strong and put up an unbelievable season, won a ton of games. That year, we only lost 7 games total. Broke a bunch of records and wound up winning the Memorial Cup in London against Sidney Crosby, which was, it was very unique because Sidney had a ton of notoriety and a ton of following that year. It was a lockout season in the NHL. So people didn't, especially in Canada, they weren't getting their hockey. And we were we were producing that for him, highlights and winning games and putting streaks together. And then the final of it all being against Sidney Crosby, who was by far the best player I've ever shared the ice with. So it was very unique. And then to top it off, my third year was something along the lines. I thought I was going to have a chance making an NHL team. I went there and had a very good camp. And unfortunately, I got cut and came down really, motivated in my fourth year in the league and did a pretty good job at torching it and put up a ton of points and kind of was set to prove, in my mind, I was proving to them that I didn't belong there. I loved to be there. I loved London. I loved everything about playing for the Knights, but I wanted to be in the NHL, and I was going to prove why I should have been there. So it was fun. We just came up short in the OHL finals that year against Peterborough Petes. Wasn't expected. We kind of had a big year the year before, so it wasn't expected for us to get all the way as far as we did. But we had a great goaltender, Adam Dennis. Sergei Kuznetsov was on our team, played very well. David Bowl, myself, Dylan Hunter were, having a really good seasons all each. I had 145 points. David had 130 points, and Dylan had 100 and something points. So, and Sergei had around 90. So we had a lot of fun that year with the new rules, and we won a lot more games than we were expected to. That's for sure. I think the guys around the team the year before were really motivated because there was a lot of talk about how we were going to be shit because we lost so many players. So, that motivated us pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the 145 points. I mean, for anyone who isn't aware, you also had 57 goals in 57 games. So that's just as impressive, if not more, I would say. I have to ask you, because Sidney Crosby is like my hero. Like, since I was 10 years old, that's when I started playing hockey. Like, if you could describe what it's like to share the ice with that guy, like, what can you even say?
He's super competitive. He's super smart. And he sees everything. He sees the ice so well. Not only does he see the ice so well, he develops the play himself. And there's not many players that can do that. We're talking back in the junior days, like our team was stacked. We had Mark Mathot, Danny Savret, Brian Rodney. Like our D-core was stacked. Like nobody. I'd say our D-core didn't have a problem with anybody. And we were playing against Mike Richards, Jeff Carter. It's not like we weren't playing against very top end talent in the OHL. We had a lot of really good players in that league. And they never gave our deep problems. The first game we played against the Sydney's team, Rimouski, we were down 3-0 the first 10 minutes of the game, and all three plays, they were all Sydney. And you're like, oh my God. Like there was nobody who was at fault per se, you know? Like I'll give you one example. Mark Mathot, Crosby came down the right wing, and Mathot came in to meet him. He came in over the blue line. He got to about the top of the circles, and Mathot charged out at him and went to smoke him. And Mark Mathot at the time was 6'3", 215, like strong as an ox, 18-year-old, 19-year-old defenseman. Crosby like leaned into him, met that like impact, and held him off with one arm. And he kept taking him all the way down into the corner. He had one hand on his stick. He looked over his shoulder. He one-hand sauce passes it over the other defenseman that was standing in front of the net, right wide open to Marc-Antoine Pouliot, who snipes. And so it was not a fluke. The pass wasn't a fluke. The fact that it landed straight on the guy's tape wasn't a fluke. The fact that he could hold off Mark Mathot when Sidney was only 17, Mark was a monster 19-year-old. Everybody was like, oh, wow. Like, wow. Oh, whoa. Yeah. He's not, this is no joke. You know, this isn't just hype. This kid can really play. So for us, that was the eye opener. And then, you know, we wound up coming back in that game, winning 4-3. Mark Mathot had 2 goals, but for the first 10, 15 minutes, we were back on our heels, and nobody did that to us all year long. So it was all Crosby, and he really drove the boat. But I got a chance to play against him a lot when I played for the Islanders. And the one season, I think it was, we played him 4 times. He had 17 points in the NHL level. You do a ton of video and stuff, and you watch through 17 points. There was 14 of them. There was nobody's fault. It was just like unbelievable play. You're like, oh, you know, not much you can do there. There was probably three out of the 17 where you're like, yeah, you missed your coverage here, or you could have done this better kind of thing. But the other points, it was just like held off 2 guys at once and found a seam through a guy's feet that was like 6 inches wide, just enough for the puck to go through, backdoor to Bill Guerin wide open. You're like, oh, that's pretty good hockey play. Like, what are you gonna do? You know, so I don't know if that's too long of an answer, but that's, you know, just encapsulates that he's amazing. He sees the ice so well, knows how to develop the play on his own.
It's a good answer. I obviously want to get to some of the New York Islanders stuff, but before we get there, curious if you have like a memory of your first NHL game with Edmonton.
It was pretty nerve-wracking. It was a call up like right at the end of the season, my rookie year, and I didn't really expect it. I didn't think it was going to happen. Was playing really good hockey at the time with Robert Nielsen. We teamed up. They traded, I think that year we got Nielsen in a trade halfway through the season, and from that point on, we really were tearing up the A. But I didn't expect it because it was so late in the season. So got the phone call in my hotel room in Norfolk, and it was something the coach called. The first time I answered it, it was like, hey, Schrempy, you're going up to the show. And I was like, yeah, I thought it was Dennis Bonby just screwing with me, because I think, you know, he knew how much I wanted to go and how much it meant, whatever. So I thought he was just playing a prank. So I was like, yeah, F off kind of thing. I hung up the phone, and I didn't have a cell phone. It was just a room phone. And then the room phone rang again in the hotel. I answered again, and it's like, hey, Schrempy, it's Todd Richardson. You're going to the NHL, pack your bags. I was like, oh man, it's really you. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I told you to F off. So I got called up, and then it was just a rush to get there, and it was against Minnesota. But I remember playing against the Boogeyman. He was like, it was the Boogeyman as a monster, and then having Marian Gaborik on the ice going like 1,000 miles an hour, like the Roadrunner. It was just like, holy crap. Like those two things were like two extremes that, I don't know. It was pretty bizarre. It was eye popping, and you're kind of like, okay, this is a totally different league. You're seeing these kind of things out on the ice, and, you know, Gaborik was sick. And then again, the Boogeyman was out there. He's like 6'7", 270, and like, just better not have your head down kind of thing. I almost got smoked by him, but thankfully his brother was down in Wilkes-Barre with us that year. And he, you know, I mean, him and his brother and I got along really well. So I think the Boogeyman let me off the hook, but he had me dead to rights, and he kind of let it off and gave me an escape. So that was one thing I was very grateful for. I don't know if I would have survived that hit.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably one of the top like 10 biggest guys to ever play. So that definitely wouldn't have worked out well, I feel like.
No.
So your time in Edmonton looks like you have about 2.5 seasons there, and then your transition with the to the New York Islanders. Do you want to talk about how that went down, and then your experience up on the island?
Yeah. So once you get into your second year deal or your second deal, like you have your rookie entry level contract, and then you get the next contract, you get waiver rights. So I didn't make the team out of camp again. You know, it just wasn't a situation where I didn't fit in Edmonton's plans. And, you know, they had a couple of new kids coming up, Cogliano and Gagne. So it actually changed over that year. Tom Rennie and Pat Quinn were the coaches. It's kind of like dual head coach. Pat Quinn was the head coach, but it's something I was excited about to be a part of. But unfortunately, with the new draft picks and the new, you know, movement and new direction, I wasn't in the plan. So fortunately enough, I had those rights. And when I got sent down that year, I got cut from training camp or whatever. Final cuts, I got picked up by the Islanders, which was a blessing. I was there for long enough with Edmonton; it didn't work out, so I was really excited to move on and get a chance somewhere new where, you know, maybe they would appreciate, you know, what I could do in the game and give me a chance to play. So, you know, I didn't get much chance in Edmonton. So again, it was a breath of fresh air to get picked up and have a new opportunity and a new look on the game, on my own game, and you know, kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So it was great. I got to Long Island. The locker room was great. Guys were really good, and just a great group of guys. I fit in much better there, I felt, and could be myself. And get great guys like Andy Sutton, Ricky DiPietro, Brendan Witt, Dougie Waite was around. So it was a great thing to walk into and get a chance to be an everyday NHLer for the next 2 years was really something I cherished. And you know, it was a big boost for me to get a chance to stay there. You know, again, with Edmonton, I got called up 1 game my first year, 2 my second, and 4 my third. So it wasn't much, you know, certainty, and there wasn't much opportunity. So this, with the Islanders, they told me, you know, you're going to be here, you're going to be in NHL every day. So get yourself prepared to get in the lineup. And when your chance comes, you're going to be a big part of the team. So that was a great thing to hear and be able to go through, and gave me a lot of confidence and, you know, just relaxing and focusing on getting better and better every day instead of.
I would imagine that just sort of takes one element of the psychological away from it, just sort of lets you focus on your game and get back to basics, if you will.
Yeah, it's much easier to worry about, like, working on your faceoffs or working on my shot off the half wall or that, versus like, am I going to get called up? Am I going to get sent down? I don't fit here. All these guys don't like me. The coach hates me. Like, all this crap can really cloud your, you know, this game's a fast game. You got all that crap going on. How the hell do you execute, you know? So, you know, even when you're down in the minors, same thing, your mind's so clouded. So it's tough to stay focused. You know, you're not where you want to be. And that's where you want to be, is like supposedly 1 step away, but it feels about 1,000 light years away. So it's tough to perform under that. So it was great to get rid of that and those years with Long Island and get a chance to just, again, focus on, okay, game, puck drop, how am I going to be a factor in the game? What can I bring to the table for the team? That sort of, you know, mindset versus, again, like the one I just went through.
If I'm not mistaken, because I always get him and Stamkos's draft year mixed up, but that year, your first year on Long Island, I believe, was Tavares' rookie year. Am I correct?
Yeah, he was 18-year-old. That was his first year.
What was that like? I think we have a lot of Long Island listeners, so I know that they would be interested to hear that.
Yeah, it was really good in the beginning. He came out guns blazing, was great. He was putting up points and scoring, and but I feel, in my opinion, not that it matters that much, but there was a lot of pressure on him. I think the same happened for Ricky DiPietro as a first overall pick. Kind of like weight got put on their shoulders. So Johnny did well in the beginning, came out, first 20 games was hot, scoring a point a game, playing very well. And then he hit that slump where things weren't going that great, offensively for him. And I think being an 18-year-old kid, it kind of caught up to him a little bit eventually. It's, the beginning was like that magic energy that you can run on as an 18-year-old. But then once you get in the November and December of an NHL season, everybody's hitting stride in the league. And they've seen his stuff a little bit. And that's the thing with these guys that have success over a long career. The consistency that they've done it with is amazing because, again, once you hit November, December in an NHL season, all teams are firing. All players, top players are, these gaps are unbelievable. Matchups, the line matchups happen. The gamesmanship in the game is there. And it's tough to produce as a top end guy. And as an 18-year-old, that's a lot of pressure. So Johnny, got hit with that, his first year. But he handled it well. He's always been a constant professional, quiet guy, just handles his business. That point, I think he was really frustrated. You could see it. I think he went on like a 10-game pointless streak, and that was something he wasn't used to at all. Coming from what do they call it? The special underage.
Yeah, like
the
the
exemption
exceptional
thing or whatever.
status or whatever.
Exceptional status. Yeah, sorry, I just
Yeah.
butchered that. But he had exceptional status in the O, and he tore it up, and he'd been training it up for the last while. So, and then he came to the show, and he was doing it for the first 20. But that the 10 games, I don't think he'd been on a 10-game slump, and maybe ever. So, but it was cool. I mean, he worked hard on his game. He worked hard every day after practice. It never stopped. Even when he was slumping, he worked even harder. So, he got through it and came back and started scoring points again. But those, I don't think I'm saying anything nobody knows, but like those teams those years weren't that good. We weren't that good as a hockey club. We were losing a lot of games, and it's pretty frustrating. For Johnny, I'm sure, and for myself, I can speak the same. Coming from London, like we barely lost any games, and and then in the NHL we're getting mopped up. It's frustrating. So it's tough to handle. And again, for him, it's probably a much different situation. Like I'd gone through years in the minors, and then finally getting a chance. So I was a little more appreciative. He was first overall pick, a lot of pressure on his shoulders. So we're talking about it from two different angles. But yeah, it was interesting. There's so much hype and there's so much attention as a first overall pick. And it's not easy for sure, especially for an 18-year-old kid to take a organization on their shoulders.
Definitely. Switching gears a little bit, you have some of the absolutely nastiest hands I think we've ever seen. Where did all of that come from? Was that just stuff that you worked on, as a kid? We've all seen the videos online. I mean, I used to, not do, computer assignments in high school and just watch, the videos of you doing the lacrosse moves all the time. Where did all that stuff really start?
Yeah, I don't know, really, to be honest with you. I just kind of like, I was always just an average hockey player. Well, I was good, but not on any kind of scale. Like I played, I wouldn't call it house hockey. It was called travel hockey. So it was all the small towns around Fulton. We play Auburn, Elmira, like Oswego, very close to home kind of. So I was just kind of good for that circuit. And then, I don't know, something out of nowhere, like 10 to 11 years old, like I just grew a bunch, and I got really skilled with all the sports, baseball, lacrosse, hockey, just kind of clicked for me. And for me growing up, though, I will say I spent a lot of time playing all sports. Always had a stick in my hand, and always that kind of thing. Lacrosse was big for me. I felt like lacrosse was the biggest. I thought that was like the biggest thing that transferred over to hockey. Just getting really good. If you get good with a lacrosse stick and you get dangles with that, and you can really cradle a ball and start doing the tricks with it. You start doing it with a hockey stick. It's obviously different. You don't have a pocket on a hockey stick, but I felt like the physics of it was exactly the same. And I just always thought, why not? So at 11 years old or 12 years old, I just started doing this stuff, the lacrosse style stuff with a hockey stick. And then it just transferred. I don't know. It was pretty cool. The Mike Leg thing was a big thing for me watching that. I saw that was huge back then, and ESPN played it a lot. And then again, I saw him do it behind the net, and then I thought, like, why can't I just do this in the open ice? Why not? As long as it's below your shoulders and like it's legal. But that back then it like pissed a lot of people off.
Still does, kind of, I think.
It drove people nuts. Yeah, and that's the mentality that I grew up in. So I was like, that creativity, I got to do it as like a kid, but I did it because I loved it. Like it just was fun for me. Like once I learned how to do that, and I worked on it, and I don't know, to do that, it's hard to go back to just doing normal stick handling, so but that stuff, like stick handling, golf ball, I always hit a ball, something, honestly, always something in my hands, and working on hand-eye coordination or stick handling and getting the feel for the ball. Big thing for me was like whenever I'm doing my work as a kid, like always having like imagination in my head of like a game, like a game situation. Like I'd be stick handling, always imagining like dangling a D or going shelf on a goalie backhand, like whatever it was a lot of imagination work. And I felt like that's important. I think that's important for kids to do, is when they're doing their practice, like imagining the situations and sort of like then working out the solutions, you know what I mean? Instead of just literally going in your garage and just like, if I do an hour of stick handling, I'm going to be Rob Schremp. Well, you and I would be doing 2 different hours. I would be imagining burning a defenseman and making the footwork to do it and the handwork and the dangling, and you just be standing in the garage stick handling for an hour. So it's, I think it's important that the little details that I used as a kid growing up will be helpful for other kids. And that's that part of it, just working on those things, but having some, thought process behind it.
Yeah, we had a guest on probably about a little over a year ago at this point. I don't know if you follow him on social media or know who he is, but John Schiavo. He also was in
yeah, he's awesome.
Oh, he's the
Yeah.
man. He was a great guest for us. He's another stick handling guru who kind of gave you a shout out when he came on our show. Guy who was in the Islanders organization, and he was saying that he obviously watched you and saw what you did, and then we started talking about, okay, like, is there something that you can do with your stick that might like help give you an advantage? And he always said that if you learn how to do all this stuff with a straight blade, it'll be way easier if you actually have like a bigger curve once you finally upgrade to that. Do you have any like weird like stick specs that you think helped you do that?
Yeah, I used to stick handle with like Adam Oates used to do it. Adam Oates used to cut like his blade basically like 2/3 of it off and
Oh
just have
wow.
like the heel of it. And that's something that I used to do a lot with. Just like imagine if you can imagine probably like maybe like 3 to 5 inches of the stick on the bot, from the shaft to the blade only being 3 to 6 inches long, like that just that little bit, and learning how to control the ball, stick handling with a golf ball like that. It really helps you control it and have feel and touch. So that was something I did a lot of, especially like, and then when you break a stick, like instead of wasting it, I'd keep that. If it was the blade that broke, I would keep that and use that, shoot pucks with it, stick handle with it. I felt like shooting with that small blade really gave you a ton of control, both for stick handling, and then if there's enough strength to the blade, you can shoot some pucks with it. I'd take one-timers with it, trying to time that perfectly, because you don't have a full blade anymore, and you got to time it perfectly, and then also hit it perfectly if you want to catch it with a small blade like that. But that was something I used to do. It's maybe a little quirky, but super helpful, beneficial.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
How's
Nick.
it been, now looking at, we obviously talked with Shavo about creativity, and you mentioned that as well. What's it like seeing guys like, obviously Zegras and, you have Forsberg and Svechnikov doing this now in the NHL? What's that been like to see?
It's great. It's great. I mean, it's hard to swallow because of the not swallow per se, I'd say, but the stuff that I got kind of chucked at me coming through in my career from doing that. I was just ahead of my time, and people were going nuts about it, like really negative stuff. Like my mom and dad were at every game; they could hear the people talking shit, um, and they weren't like normal people. It was like scouts and people that mattered in the game talking like this, and now it's like celebrated. So it's on one side of it, you're like, finally, it's great. It's great for the game. Like you want to see that creativity, that differentness, and instead of everything being so simpleton. But yeah, there's two sides of it, right? You're kind of like, man, what I went through and what I did here for this, and now it's celebrated, versus the other part of it's like, well, it's good. At least the game's growing. At least now that people see the value in it. It's not to say that we need to make the game out of into a circus, but like you should be able to bring your talents to the ice. And you see guys in NBA that can, they go down in 360 dunk. Is that entertaining? I mean, I personally think so, and I think a lot of people would agree. I think the game needs that, and that's what I always felt. I felt like that. Like I grew up with Michael Jordan. I've said this in many conversations, but Michael Jordan was an idol of mine growing up, and like the way he played the game was not only dominant, but it was also entertaining. The dunk from the foul line with his tongue out, like. And if they did that in hockey, they would have been like, you punk or you hot dog. That's the kind of way it was. So it's nice to evolve. I'm glad to see it evolving. It's just, it always gives you those memories of what it got to get there, for me personally.
Want to circle back real quick just to your career before we advance more on the stick handling talk. But I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but in that 2010 season when you ended up going to Atlanta, wasn't that their last season in town before they went back to Winnipeg?
Yeah, exactly. It was 2010, 11, I think it was.
Yeah, it's the 2010, 2011 season. I mean, I can't remember because I was a lot younger then and didn't really understand it at the time, but like the team knew they were moving at that point when you were on the roster, right?
Well, I had no idea.
Oh, no idea.
I'm sure other people did, but
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I got picked off waivers that year halfway through the year. So I really wasn't in the loop of things.
Gotcha.
Nobody could tell me the inner workings. So, well, I mean, I found out in June that year after the season. The other thing, like, got there. So, Long Island was great. Got an opportunity. Unfortunately, got it moved. Numbers game. Josh Bailey was a young kid coming up. He was a top, I think he was an 8th overall draft pick. So there was, he was more valuable than I was. So I got moved to Atlanta. When I got to Atlanta, there was a guy named Rick Dudley there who I'd known from Steve Ludzig, my rookie year in the O. and I'd known him since 16 years old. And I finally had somebody that was in my corner, believed in me. He'd known me a long time. And I thought, I was like, perfect. I'm in Atlanta. I'll have a job, at least some security here for at least a couple of years, you know? And then flash forward to June, get a group text from Andrew Ladd. It was like, hey boys, pack your parkas. We're heading north. And I was like, what?
What?
What does that mean? And then sure enough, you get the news cycle going, and it's like Atlanta Thrashers are sold and they're moving to Winnipeg. And then the next came out, they're like, they fired the whole front staff. I was like, oh man, that's brutal. So yeah, that was the story. But that I got to play there the last year that they existed, though. So it was pretty cool. I still got the bag. I bring it to men's league all the time. The boys.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's actually, you could probably sell that for a ton of money, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
One of the cooler logos, honestly. I always thought their look was pretty cool.
Yeah, great jerseys too.
yeah, I like that. I like the sweaters, man. They were pretty cool. They were fun to put on, you know. There's different teams I played for in my career that you put the sweater on, and some were like, yeah, this is brutal. Especially in Europe. There's some that have like literally grocery stores all over them and this and that advertising, and you're like, man, you know what I mean? Like one of the freshest ones I put on was the London Knights one. It was just so fresh. It was so basic, you know what I mean? It was your jersey, the Knights logo, and it had the CHL patch on it, but that's the league you're in, so that makes sense, right? And it was just fresh and clean. That's, you think of like the Detroit Red Wings sweaters, like they're such clean, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to Europe again, you got like the local grocery store all over your chest and your pants, and you're like, why do I do it? But,
yeah, I mean, since that Atlanta stint, you know, you've now been playing over in Europe for like the last 10 years, basically. Had a hell of a journey over there with a bunch of cool countries. I mean, how would you sum up your European hockey experience?
you're diverse. I get to see a bunch of leagues and see a bunch of different styles of hockey. So that was something I'm always grateful for, because it, you know, allows me the ability to talk about it and learn from it and teach other players about it. So, you know, it's one thing to know the game in North America, but you come over here, the rink's bigger, it's a totally different style. So it gave me the, you know, kind of the knowledge and experience to be able to help players on a different level from experience, and not just being some North American player that was good. So it was unique, you know, it's totally different. I find it was more, each country was different. Sweden was great hockey, really structured, and, you know, Switzerland was a little bit more like wide open and fast, and kind of a little bit more like ball hockey. You get some high scores and, you know, breakaways all over the place. But yeah, all the countries were different and very unique in their own respect.
Did you have one that was like a favorite, or was there like a favorite city to live in?
Oh, I would say Switzerland was my favorite. Yeah, Switzerland's amazing. Like the country's beautiful. The rinks are pretty cool. There's a couple places. One's Davos. It's like a, you know, wooden cathedral. They play the Spangler Cup there every year. It's really unique, really cool rink. It's in the mountains, and it's, you know, they have the G7. I believe it's the G7 summit. G7.
Yeah.
So
Shane Doan was just saying that on Chicklets yesterday about the Spangler Cup, since he's the GM over there. He said it's beautiful out there.
Yeah, it's sick. So that's really cool. And then there's one other place in that league called Bern, SC Bern. They have I want to say 15,000 seat building, and on one side of it they have like this one massive wall. It's like 12,000 people. And it's just from the, you know, ice level to the ceiling, and it's really high on that side. It's all concrete, and they stand up the whole game, chant. They got their chants, and they go nuts. The building energy is insane. So it's really cool. It's just very unique, very different. You know, it's like a soccer or a football style setting. Football for Europeans, soccer for us Americans. But it's like a soccer setting, you know, their chants, they got the drum going, they don't sit down the whole time, and they go nuts. So really unique experience, so with those two spots.
Out of all the you know, teams you've been on, locker rooms you've been in, is there one that stands out that was like the most tight knit, or some that you just have some, you know, funny memories or stories from?
I mean, junior days, our London Knights team was really tight. We had a great group of guys. We all were on the same page in a lot of respects, as far as playing hockey together, going out together, having fun together, and sticking together. So we had a blast there. That team was special for a lot of different reasons. You know, it's junior, but, you know, we hung out a lot off the ice and did so much stuff away from the rink together. We always stuck together. So that group was tough to beat. You know, it's junior's different. It's, you know, guys making $50 a week versus when you go pro, it's guys have families and stuff. So it's a little bit different, you know, and that time will always be cherished. But I'd say Long Island, to be honest with you. That group of guys was really tight, really, we were all pretty much in the same age range. A couple older guys, but we had a good core group of guys that were, mid-20s, early 20s, and we hung out quite a bit and had, really Kyle Poso, Mark Streit, myself, Milan Andersina. We always stayed around the rink for 2-3 hours after playing ping pong, little stuff like that just is, it's great memories, and it was good for camaraderie.
Do you have a memory of your first goal on Long Island?
Yeah, against Tim Thomas. It was actually like Kyle Poso was on the other side and he looked right over at me, and I was licking my chops. So I was drooling because he saw me, and I was in my one-timer spot that scored probably 1,000,000 goals in junior from. And he looked right at me and it was coming, and I'm ready to let this clapper go. And then this puck got deflected on the way over and it went towards the net. And I was kind of like, damn, there goes my spot. And then the puck just like bubbled around. And then Matt Molson was where he always was, in front of the net, just jamming away. And I was kind of behind the goal line at that point. It just fell off of Tim Thomas's pad. And I was like, oh man, it's open. And I jumped in and I kind of bounced it off his foot and in. And then, the puck went in, and I threw a hell of a celebration. I was so pumped. I waited for so long for that goal, and I finally went in. I skated up, did some fist pumps, and then I did like a jump into Mark Streit's hands. I almost blew his back out, jumping into his arm. It almost killed him. But I was super stoked, man. I waited a long time and envisioned that. I envisioned the goal going in a lot differently, the million times I took it as a kid, but whatever, man. Beggars can't be choosers in that situation. I was just happy to produce.
I'll make this my last question because I know you we don't want to keep you too long, but who's like one of your favorite players to watch in the NHL now? I'm assuming you still watch, and if some guys don't. But do you have like a favorite player that you like to keep an eye on?
I mean, there's a lot now. It's crazy. Like, McDavid is super special. Super special player. Him and Draisaitl, those guys are fun to watch. Patty Kane, I love watching him always. There's a handful of guys that are just really worth the price of admission. I think the game's evolved a lot, and we're hitting a pretty cool peak right now. Guys like Cal McCarr, McKinnon, it goes down. I mean, there's a ton. So I really enjoy watching it now. It's changed. The rule change of 2005. I know it's a long time ago, but it's just finally starting to get here. I think full swing, where we're seeing. I mean, I'll wake up in the morning here and see 9-8 scores in the NHL. Like, this is crazy. You're seeing 7-5s. You're seeing a ton of offense and a ton of creativity happening. So there's a lot to watch. But I think, like, for me, I break down a lot of those guys' stuff for other players and to teach them things. So that's my role now. There's so many rich clips with information from today's players, like what they do, and practice them with the purpose. How do you, I'm not going to turn the next guy into McKinnon, but you can take some stuff from him. McDavid, same thing. There's small things like, how he surveys the ice. And then you always go back to Crosby. Again, every single night, he's got probably 10 or 15 things that other players can learn from if you just, sort of pay attention to what they're doing. So I didn't answer your question. Apologize, but there's too many guys out there.
No, you're good. You're
there's
good.
So much, there's so many good players now.
No, it's an exciting time. It feels like every team finally has a star player. I feel like back in the day, there might be a couple dud teams where you're like, I really want to watch on that team. And now every team has someone where you're like, okay, that's kind of box office material. It's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Was there one specific player you tried to model your game after growing up, or, one player you gravitated towards watching?
There's a few through my career. Like Peter Forsberg I was a huge fan of him when I was 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. I loved his game, the way he played, his, playmaking ability. And when I was growing up, and those for my time, and that's how he played the NHL, was kind of how I was playing in like youth hockey. Like, I would have 2 or 3 guys mauling me, slashing, and chasing me around. And you watch Peter Forsberg's NHL highlights, like, he used to drag NHL players around. And they'd be like on him, him. I loved him. I loved Kovalev. I thought he was I just loved his flair and the way his shiftiness and the way he handled the puck was really. There was a couple guys that kind of shaped the way I saw the game, and Marcus Naslund was one of those guys. I love the way he played. He had, really the finesse and the way he can snipe, set up plays. Those guys really shaped the way I saw the game, and I love watching them and trying to emulate what they were doing on the ice. And, Fedorov. I remember one goal against Washington. He came down the right side. He comes in, he hits the brakes hard, and then the goalie backs up in the net, and then he goes absolute shelf, top glove. I remember that goal clear as day. Practiced that thing 1,000 times. There was a bunch of players. The thing was back then you only really had like ESPN highlights like 5 minutes in the morning to watch. We didn't have like the never-ending loop of YouTube and never-ending loop of Instagram now, and it's crazy how much is out there now. You can get so much. I find watching certain stuff and following certain stuff, you get so much information so fast. But back then it was kind of like I saw that a couple times, and then I had to like keep that memory and try to reenact that moment, and try to the other one was Mark Messier's right wing snapshot on Marty Bedore. Probably took that shot 10,000 times. It was a little bit different back then, but that's again that picture memory I talked about a little bit with the stick handling. Those sort of players, that's what they produce those for me, those moments where I try to duplicate. And then you can do that. If you can master that and do that at Bantam Major, you dominate. Again, those moves are filthy, right? They're doing it at the NHL level. Joe Sakic's snapshot, I did it. His snapshot was really it was really important to me. I followed that. I love the way he released the puck, and I try to always just copy that release, that one-legged snapshot. And now we got shooting gurus in today's game. They think that they invented the one-legged snapshot. Like Joe Sakic was doing this, mid 90s, late 90s, like every time, low blocker snapshot, that jump snapshot. And it's interesting to see people trying to take credit for it now. But like, man, I saw that in 1998. Like, get the hell out of here with this.
Yeah,
no
great.
chance.
Yeah, you didn't get that off TikTok. That's been around for a while.
Yeah. Nice.
No hashtag brought you to that. That's
right.
that's just eyeball test on the old cable TV.
Yeah.
But Rob, we really appreciate you joining us. I just want to share this with you. So last night I was just scrolling Twitter, talking about social media, and I can't remember what the page was, but we all listen to like all the hockey podcasts, and Matt Murley, who's part of the Chicklets team, there was a post that was on Twitter, and it said, if you could watch one NHL player again in like today's rules and the environment, who would you pick? And he commented Robbie Schremp, and I was like, wow, isn't that something? Because that was last night, and I knew we were interviewing you today. So you've inspired a bunch of people. Like, you might not even know, maybe you do, but it's just like everybody's kind of doing what you were originating on YouTube back in 2009, 2010. I think Oliver Wahlstrom plays for Islanders now. He was that 10-year-old kid on SportsCenter doing 360 moves, and 10 years later, he's in the NHL, ironically, for the Islanders, and he credits you for all that. So it's really cool what you've done, and we really appreciate that you came on and joined us.
I appreciate the words and appreciate your time, guys. And if you ever need anything in the future, I'm happy to jump back on or whatever you need. I hope you guys all the success with the podcast. And again, thanks for your time. Thanks for your questions. I appreciate it. It was great to catch up with you guys and have a conversation about hockey. I love talking hockey. So anytime you want to have another one, I'm always open.
Awesome, man. Glad to hear it. Big thanks to Rob for hopping on with us. Such a cool guy, and we really appreciate him making the time in his schedule. I know he had to coordinate some time difference issues with him being over in Latvia. So once again, we really, really appreciate it. I had a blast during that one, guys. I mean, I used to watch his highlights all the time, like I mentioned in the interview, and just to get to talk to him about it was really, really cool.
Cool guy, really easy to talk to, and we probably could have kept going for like another hour there, but we had to let him go.
Easily.
I'm going to show my age here, and this is going to be a very in-depth story, but I can remember 2008, I had a Easton Z bubble shaft with a Steve Yzerman navy blue Easton head. And if you know the Yzerman curve from back in the day, it's not very big. And I watched Rob Schremp on a toaster oven in 2008 on my iPhone 3GS do stupid shit with like the puck in the air and swinging it around. And I was a kid at Patterson Park in downtown Baltimore trying to pull that shit off, and I couldn't do it. And at that moment I was like, wow, like this is impressive. It took me years to try to learn how to scoop the puck, and he's the reason I started. So I want to give Rob a shout out.
Do you know how many holes I put in the drywall in my parents' basement trying to do this?
Oh, hundreds. Yeah. He's a legend of the game. Like, I don't think people, unless you've really been like into like the youth hockey scene, like from an early age, and you were in that whole like YouTube generation, I don't think you realize how like legendary this guy is. I mean, he's
like you heard, and you mentioned it in the interview, like Chavo said, like that was the guy for most of them.
Yeah. Yeah, super cool. Honestly, like probably top 3 interview for me that we've done so far. That was really awesome.
Good stuff.
All right, let's get into the news. We had a whole bunch of stuff come out about Gary Bettman this week. Well, I don't know if there was like some NHL meeting or not. Didn't really pay attention, but
No.
the the quote of the day. Here we go. So you all know that there's now digital dasher boards that we didn't know were either televised digitally or real in life at the start of the season. I guess we've learned that now.
Hey, we figured it out. Okay.
We did figure it
We
out.
did a good job.
And as many of you know, a lot of people have complained about it being a distraction. You know, it changes from PPG paints to Comcast to United Healthcare or whatever, you name it. There's been some glitches in that broadcast and such. Gary Bettman's exact quote on the digital dashboards were this: "The polling we do with our fans gives us the feedback that it's not an issue. Many think it looks better than having the numerous logos on the dashboards. It's working extraordinarily well." What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, he goes on to talk about how, like, if you're watching the game, the board shouldn't really affect it. And to a degree, I sort of agree with that statement. However, it's not the smoothest, editing sometimes for these to be superimposed in. Like last night, the water bottle above the Caps net was like flickering red and white. It just looked like a little goal light above the net. Like, so I don't know. Like, there's some weird things about it.
I saw a screenshot. I forget who posted it, but it was like literally like the like the graphic is like it looks like a video game or something. It like goes through like the ref and like 2 of the players, so it makes it look like their top half is like invisible or some shit. And it's like, what are we looking at here?
I believe
like,
that was Evil Gritty.
It was.
Which would make
it
sense.
was. Yeah.
That would make sense. That
it's
guy's
just,
hysterical.
I mean, I don't want to talk about it too much because it's kind of just a stupid thing that doesn't really matter that much. But Gary Bettman's an idiot. I think we can leave it at that.
Why did we do this in the first place? We could have just stuck 1,000 different stickers on the boards. Race cars have been doing this since the dawn of time. Be better.
To be honest with you, like as a guy who's watched thousands and thousands of hours of hockey in his life, I really don't notice it. Like I feel like it's more of a casual fan thing. Like, if you don't know, like us 3, for instance, right? You don't need to know where the puck is to figure out where the puck is. Like you could play a hockey game and they could hide the puck from us and we would be able to tell what's going on.
Yeah, body language.
I watched 2 of them with my eyes closed these past 2 weeks and I knew where the puck was.
Yeah. and like for the casuals, they kind of need to really see where the puck is. And I think when things get in the corners behind the net, maybe this kind of becomes a distraction, but that's his life.
Your TV's dirty. There's a little spot. You're like, is that the puck? I don't know.
Yeah.
This is also like, and I will say this is a huge issue in the boomer hockey fan community. They are all over Facebook about this. So
Yes, as they usually are with most things. So
time to pay a visit to the Costco Vision Center and up your reading glasses prescription.
Don't sleep on Costco glasses. They're great.
I'm wearing them right now.
I wear them all the time. I have no complaints.
Their Vision Center rocks.
Or their hot dog deal.
True.
Moving on, we got Craig Berube, coach of the St. Louis Blues. He had some comments about his goaltender Jordan Binnington's antics and temper as of late. About a week ago, the Blues were on the road in Pittsburgh, and the Blues goalie shoved a glove into the face of Pittsburgh forward Jason Zucker, who was circling behind the Blues goal. The Blues were getting beat up pretty bad. They were trailing the Pens 4-1 at that point, and Binnington was pulled in favor of Thomas Greiss after the second period. And on his way to the bench, he appeared not only right after shoving Zucker, but then when he was going to the locker room after the second intermission, he was jawing with both the Pittsburgh bench and the officiating crew. And on his way doing all that jawing and talking, he was given a 10-minute misconduct for inciting. So, we've talked about Jordan Binnington a decent amount on this show in the past couple of years. We definitely have talked about him a lot more since Husso left town. And it looks like the wheels have been coming off a little bit here. So what are your guys' thoughts on Binnington at the moment?
I'm going to say right now, did you read the Berube quote already? Or
I I did not. You can go if you have it. You can go ahead.
Yeah, he said it's got to stop. It doesn't help. Just play goal, stop the puck. I couldn't agree with this more, honestly. I think it's spot on. I think I get maybe some Blues fans are probably saying like, oh, like Berube is being too harsh on him, like he doesn't know what it's like to be a player, be a goalie or whatever. But I think the spot on, and the best part of that whole quote, it doesn't help, right? Like that, it's not helping anything. This is like a total youth hockey move, in my opinion, from Binnington. It's like you can't be this much of a hothead for that long and like every time, like you got to get it under control because it's not helping. If anything, it's probably hurting. I doubt his teammates like it. Like I'm sure they're like, dude, cool it. Like you're getting us penalties. You're just making shit worse. Yeah, I think Berube is spot on. I think he's got to get it under control.
I also I totally agree with everything you just said, Mac. I could not agree with this more. So two things here. One, for a player's coach like Berube to openly say this in the media and hockey culture, you guys know this by now, you don't ever criticize your own teammates. You never criticize your own goaltender. This is a big deal for a coach to do this, for him to step up and say, hey, this doesn't help. Just shut up and stay in the net and play goal. That's big. Number two, yeah, he's a goalie, so he can do all this stuff, and then there's going to be zero repercussions whatsoever.
Usually.
It's going to piss me off. It's sort of, I know it's very different than going back to the whole Rupp talking about Matthews not getting involved after starting a fight.
It's a little similar.
But it's similar. You come out and you give someone a forearm shiver with a glove to the mouth. What do you think?
Be ready to
they're just going to run the goalie next play? It's like, no, they're going to go right after whoever they're lined up against at the face-off.
That's a great point. And it just goes to show his teammates are probably suffering for it in more than one way. And let me revise a little bit what I said, because I think you made another good point. I think I don't know that Berube should have said this in an interview. That might not have been a good idea. But he's absolutely right. What he said is correct. I don't know if it was a good idea for the state of the team for him to say it, though, because you make a good point. You should never, ever, ever criticize your goalie, whether you're on his team as a player or you're the coach, especially if you're the coach, honestly, because that also doesn't help. So.
No.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you've listened to the pod long enough, like, you know me, I like guys who kind of I like agitators. There, I said it. I have a soft spot for him. I think it's cool. I think it's entertaining. I think Binnington's wildly entertaining, and any time that he gets, heated up, especially in a playoff series, always makes for a little bit of a better storyline. But from a teammate's perspective, you're taking penalties, you're getting misconducts, and you're just not playing well. I mean, the Blues have lost 4 of their last 6. I'm looking at their schedule right now. He did post a shutout 2 nights ago against the Predators. But upcoming, they've got the Oilers, the Flames, and the Canucks, and the Kraken, and then Golden Knights, and then the Maple Leafs. So their next 6 games are absolutely brutal. We're going to really see what Binnington has in store for the, how is this going to work for the Blues? I mean, they're locked up with them. Their backup's not a starter, and they're just not playing well in general, I would say. So, yeah, I would say that he probably needs to cool it or
start winning.
Yeah. My brain just broke for a second. I was gonna say, on a flip side, maybe he just needs to start inciting a ton of fights, and then he'll get better. I don't know, one or the other. Spin zone. That's
the other thing is, this is not the '60s. This is not the '70s. This is not the '80s. You are not Billy Smith, and you're not Ron Hextall. So it's like, if you want to be Billy Smith, fine, win 4 Stanley Cups in a row, dude. Then we'll talk.
Yeah, win games if you're gonna fucking do this shit. That's a good point.
Agreed. Speaking of St. Louis, former St. Louis Blue Alex Pietrangelo steps away from the Vegas Golden Knights for the moment due to an illness in the family. His absence is labeled as indefinite. Definitely sending thoughts and prayers to the Pietrangelo family and the Golden Knights community. So we've got Shane Wright, Dylan Gunther, and Brant Clark all going to Team Canada for the World Juniors. For those of you who forgot, like myself, we did just have a World Junior tournament over the summer that happened to replace the COVID canceled one from last winter. But now we've got a new one coming up. What, in a week or so, right around Christmas?
Regularly scheduled program. We're back to now.
Yeah.
It's usually the
So-
day after Christmas is when they get things going.
So Nick, I would say you're probably the biggest World Junior geek out of all of us. What do you got to tell the listeners about this?
Well, Canada's getting 3 NHL players, so must be fucking nice.
I mean, I would imagine that per usual they're going to be the favorite to win it.
Of
but
course, yeah.
Yeah. So
Until they lose
Until they don't face adversity until the championship and lose.
again.
yeah, right. But significant for Shane Wright, scored his first NHL goal last week after being sent down to, what was it? The Coachella Valley
Firebirds.
Firebirds. Yeah.
The Coachella White Girls.
Yeah. Go hang out in Coachella for a week and then come back up and score your first NHL goal. What a horrible life. But shout out to Shane Wright for that.
Against the Habs too, like the team
That
that
part was
snubs
pretty
you.
cool.
Like,
Yeah.
I forget somebody called it on Twitter.
Terry.
Yeah, I thought so. Yep.
Our boy Terry, who came on for a YouTube interview about the Wild a little bit ago, he was all over that. It was like plus 500, 600.
You know what's funny is I saw that and I bought in. I was like, oh, that makes a world of sense. And I went on the website, which will not be mentioned, and you know,
they didn't have it.
He wasn't there.
If you've ever worked at this particular website, Mr. Goldstein, I hope you're listening. You would know that if a player didn't play the prior game, this makes fucking sense, he's not listed as a player for any prop bets for that game, even if he's going to be playing in that game. So it wasn't even there, and I knew it was going to happen because Terry tipped me off, and I believed him, and he was right. And then I saw the goal. I was watching the game. I saw it happen, and I was like,
of course, right?
Where is he? I want to talk to him.
Only sometimes.
Yeah.
In there, a SpongeBob quote, only sometimes. Isn't the magic
Maybe
conch
someday.
Yep.
Maybe someday. That's
Yeah.
what it is. Damn. Yeah. Maybe someday you can bet on players that didn't play the previous game for props. Yeah. Oh man, I missed that. I missed those days. Maryland finally got like official, so it's not the same anymore. But yeah. All right. The Seattle Kraken have claimed, oh Jesus Christ, Eli Tolvainen.
Come on. This one's not even hard. Sound it out.
You got this.
Eli Tolvainen.
Eli Tolvanen.
Tolvanen. Yeah. Eli Tolvanen off of waivers from Nashville. I know when we had
Pete Weber.
Predators guy. Huh?
Pete Weber.
He talked about this guy, said he had a lot of upside.
Not bowling Pete Weber. Just wanted to make that very clear.
Predators Pete Weber, yes. Yeah. He talked about this guy in our interview. Got a lot of upside, so good find for the Kraken. What'd you say?
I'm just telling Nick to pour it up.
Oh, okay.
Because he's pouring it up.
Can do.
Okay.
Yeah, this is big. I mean, I'm pretty sure this guy was a first-round pick.
Yep. He's definitely he kind of reminds me. I've seen him play a couple of times. He reminds me of like Burakovsky a little bit, the way that he looks,
fantasy
skates.
Monster to start the year.
There were a lot of people on Cap's Twitter being like, "Why didn't we claim him?" And I'm like, "All right, cool it. We've claimed like everybody and their mother, like Milano, Abe Kubel. How many people can we have?"
Yeah. No, I think he'll find a nice home up in Seattle.
He'll definitely find more of a role. I think like Nashville just being Nashville, the way that like their cards kind of fall. He wasn't getting top 6 minutes consistently, and I don't think that's an arena for him to be successful in.
Agreed. Reports are indicating that Bo Horvat has rejected the Canucks' final extension offer, and the team is now expected to take the best trade offer for him. He was recently interviewed after a practice where he was said he will have no further comments on the issue and is focused solely on the Vancouver Canucks this season, which means he is solely focused on getting the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
He is so gone, boys. Like so far gone.
Brock Besser too.
Yep.
Brock Besser too. It sounds like Vancouver might be cleaning house. So let's dive into this a little bit. So here's the tricky part with Bo Horvat. His contract is up after this season. Nobody really knows if this has to be a trade and sign and trade, or if he can be a rental. I think that's definitely playing a key part here. I mean, if he's just a rental, dude, this could be league shattering if he ends up going to, like, let's say, I don't know, give me some leaders,
I
Colorado,
don't want this,
Dallas,
but why do I feel like Boston is going to find a way to make
Boston.
this work?
Fuck
They're
me,
going to
New
find a way to
Jersey.
make that work.
Or like,
So-
I don't know why I thought about the Islanders. Just like they get him. I don't know why it just struck me as like not as big of a star name, so the Islanders would actually go after him.
The Islanders don't. I don't know where you've been, but the Islanders don't acquire people.
Yeah, they don't
just
spend
don't-
money either.
Yeah, they just don't really like. They don't know that trading is part of it, so they just don't do any of that.
Yeah. Well, that means Philly's not going to do anything for sure.
True. They also don't. But they have the orb. That's why we know
True.
why at least. with
What do
that.
you guys think about Winnipeg?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a real good one. I feel like he would fit
cold.
perfect. Scheifele and Dubois and Horvat down the middle, that has a ring to it.
You're an idiot.
Who, me?
No,
No,
Mac.
me.
So what
What'd
do
he
you think
say?
about Winnipeg?
He said,
goes,
"What do you
"It's
think
cold."
about?"
That's
Yeah, I'm
cold.
just.
I must
That's
have
what I
missed that
think
part.
about it.
Must have missed that part.
I don't
Nick,
know
what's
why
your,
I got Winnipeg vibes. I also got Calgary vibes too.
Okay, I could see Calgary.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know. This is interesting because if someone just rents him, I mean, he could go to a loaded team and all of a sudden they're double loaded. So I don't know. It's something to keep an eye on. If it's a sign and trade, then that changes everything, I think.
I swear
want
to
Besser. I don't want any part of whatever Horvat's contract is or is going to be. I want Brock Besser though.
So that was going to be a follow-up question I had here. A ton of people have been saying Brock Besser could be a fit for the Washington Capitals, and that both made me terrified inside and kind of excited at the same time.
Brock Besser, you are a Washington Capital. No, it is terrifying though, because we've got Wilson and Backstrom hopefully coming back pretty soon, and we're gonna have to clear cap, and the last thing we need is like signing another expensive player. So it probably like doesn't make sense, but I mean, in conceptually, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Like, every single team in the freaking league is going after Brock Besser. I have a
Yeah.
feeling that he might get a bigger haul than Horvat just because of the contract situation.
What I've been reading though is that they don't expect to get much back for Besser. Like
I
they
saw
think,
second rounder and stuff
yeah,
like that.
I literally saw people saying it's going to be like a second or a third round pick, or like a second and a third or something like that.
Why
And
would
like
the Pens or
and-
Caps not just do that
Well,
in a blink?
that's what I'm saying. Like I could that sounds like the most Caps like
I know,
GM
but-
BM just is like, yeah, you can have a freaking third round pick. Like
You can have Lars
Yeah.
Eller and a third round pick for Brock Besser.
Man.
Yeah, I know. It just makes you think. It's like, why wouldn't you go after that? But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting trade deadline. Vancouver's going to be making a lot of moves. Last thing before we get to the discussion segments, Tage Thompson, got to give him a shout out. He's been lights out so far this year. He had 5 goals and 6 points last week in a 9-4 win against the Columbus Blue Jackets. He had a hat trick in the first period. He had 4 goals in the first period. He had 6 shifts and 4 goals. I don't know if that's a record, but it's got to be close. Just a couple numbers for you guys. So Tage Thompson right now, his 82 game pace numbers. This comes from Dmitry Filipovich on Twitter. He's on pace for 65 goals, 60 assists, 382 shots on goal, and 167 high danger chances. I mean, he's easily the breakout player of the year. Is there anyone else who even comes close that I'm not thinking of?
Honestly, it's hard to come up with someone to refute that point. I think, for him to be on pace for that many goals is great. Do I think he'll get there? No. I'd probably say 40 is a safe estimate in my opinion, but I mean, the dude's been playing unbelievable since the season started.
Yeah, I mean, he's been an absolute beast for the Sabres. So maybe I know since you guys are Ovechkin guys, you don't want to hear this, but he's 4th in the league or 3rd in the league right now in goals. Could be a good value pick for the Rocket Richard if McDavid ever stops doing McDavid things. But yeah, he's a fun one to watch in Buffalo. 6'7", just an absolute beast on the ice. You definitely can't miss him. All right, Nick, I'm gonna let you guide the discussion for this Jacob Trouba segment.
So we got another big a blow up hit by Jacob Trouba. I'm sure you guys have seen it now. It was on Andreas Athanasiou the other night. What did you guys think of this hit? And then we'll dive into Athanasiou's comments following the game.
I'll let Mac tee off if he wants to.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I did not like the hit. I think, and like you said, we'll get to in a second. I think Athanasiou's comments are pretty spot on, and that's coming from a guy who has Jacob Trouba on his fantasy team, and he really hasn't done much of fucking anything. Like, that's not a captain hit. That's not a fucking. He just shouldn't be the captain. Like, he's not scoring goals. He's delivering cheap shots. He's kind of a bum, honestly. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Like,
He's having a bad year.
he is, and they just named him the captain, which is just a bad look when everyone said it should have been Kreider anyway. So,
Agreed.
yeah, I don't really like Jacob Trouba's vibe right now.
It says everything you need to know about what that team plans on doing with Chris Kreider down the road. Just saying, I thought it was late. I thought it was high. I thought it was totally uncalled for.
I mean, I hate Jacob Trouba, so I think you know my thoughts.
Also, am I mistaken, or I feel like poor Andreas Athanasiou, I feel like he's been the victim of like a couple like pretty brutal hits over the last couple of years. Like, I feel like this is not the first time that I've seen him like on the wrong end of just like a really bad hit.
No,
Yeah.
he has been. He's one of those guys though, dude. He flies, but damn, he cuts across the middle with no fear somehow, and he
that's
just gets
fair.
clobbered.
That's
He
gonna
got
happen.
lined up for sure. And after the game, he was quoted as saying about Trouba, he's an $8 million man with 0 goals. So he has to figure out how to do something when making that much. If you can't help the team, I guess you just try and hurt guys on the other team.
I echo that. I know that firsthand.
Yep. Who was it that this is a similar comment just the other night. I want to say it was Darnell Nurse and somebody.
It was Jordan. You're talking about
Yeah.
the Jordan Greenway thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said like, you make $9 million and you fucking nothing,
And you
or
don't
something
do
like
shit
that.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
that
I
was
love
phenomenal.
when players like chirp at each other for how much they make and how little like importance they have to their team.
Yeah,
One of
it's
my favorite
phenomenal.
chirps from all time is when they tell the guy from the minors, like, oh, turn around. What's your name again?
Yeah, classic.
That's a classic
Matthews.
one.
Yeah.
Like pulling the name, being
Yeah,
like,
who are
"Fucking
you?"
shit,
Like,
dude, what the hell?
yeah, enjoy your
Classic
3
Matthews.
games.
Next discussion point. This one's been talked about a lot, so we're going to take a little bit of a different spin on this. But as you all know, probably by now because it went viral, Jack Edwards, just a guy that we have talked about time and time again on this show.
Loser.
I would say like this is the 4th time we've had to do this.
Okay,
Just,
so before
like,
we go
that
any
I can
further,
remember.
Yes, before we go any further, he had some comments about Pat Maroon's body, so we will insert the audio right here.
Listed at 238 pounds. That was day 1 of training camp. I got a feeling he's had a few more pizzas between then and now. Yeah, that's before pregame. Yeah, right. Fasting. Chris, inadvertent fasting for Pat Maroon is like 4 hours without a meal. But hey, 3 cups in a row. Who can argue with his formula?
Okay, so as you can hear, in 2022, that is not going to fly, obviously. That made its ways around the internet. I'm sure you've all seen Pat Maroon's response, the donations that he's made, all that good jazz. We're not here to, report that this is kind of like a week old at this point, but more so rather, like, if you're Nesson, what are you doing? Like, this is, like Nick said, this has got to be the 4th time in the last.
Why
we've done this
is
show
he
for 4
still
years.
employed? Why is he still
Half
employed?
the Bruins fans hate him.
Yeah.
And the other half defends him to the fucking grave. Like, I saw so many dumb ass Bruins fans on Twitter being like, "What? Like, he complimented him right after that. He said he's won 3 Stanley
What are you,
Cups."
stupid or something? Like,
And it's like, dude, that is the most like if you've never heard like a backhanded compliment, that's all that is. That's him just trying to like be like, well, but what do I know? Because he's fucking one thing. That doesn't count as complimenting somebody when 2 seconds prior you're saying they're like fat as fuck and like that just the fact that so many Bruins fans really thought they were like, but he complimented him. What the hell? Like,
Yeah, it was a little just out of bounds. I mean, Maroon talked about it on Chicklets. If you haven't listened to that interview, you should. But I guess like for me, I don't think Edwards should be fired for like this comment. Like this isn't like me saying he needs to lose his job for calling him fat. Like it's not that.
I agree.
He's just not a good announcer.
He's
Like,
just
not.
sucks. Just firing for being a loser. Like,
yeah.
like you suck. Goodbye.
You are not good at your job. Goodbye. Like, I mean,
now granted, he gets. I will say this, and this is the age we live in. It's sad. He gets clicks. Like he
It's
gets
the classic.
viewers.
It's the classic. No publicity is bad publicity. That's what Nesson is doing here. They're like, well, guess how many people went to our website to watch the clip of this video or whatever, and then commented like "fuck you" or whatever.
Right.
But
I'll tell you what's fucked up. So when I watch out of market games on ESPN Plus, you get to choose between the home broadcast and the away broadcast. And 9 times out of 10, I just click the first one unless it's the Penguins playing because I love Mearsy, friend of the program. Thank you. Or I will put on Jack Edwards strictly for entertainment. I'm like, what the fuck's he gonna say today? And
I'll avoid him. I'll do the opposite.
Well, I was gonna say
Avoid him.
avoid it. I just am like, I gotta hear what this guy says.
Yeah,
it's like
that's
I can't.
fair.
I have.
I
It's like
get it. It is pretty funny, honestly. But
like,
it's
and my other issue with this is like it's not like he said it and it was like, okay, like shouldn't have said that, it's over, let's move on. Like the puck went back and forth like 5 times and he's still like riding the guy. I'm like, okay, like joke didn't land the first time. Joke did not land the second time. Maybe we don't go for it a third, fourth, and fifth time.
It also just had nothing to do with anything. Like it's just like talking about, dude. Like just fucking do your job. Like
also like
the game. Like you missed like 3 other little plays that happened. Like you're supposed to be the fucking play-by-play guy.
Right.
Talk about what's happening instead of fucking trying to like make fun of the other team. Like what a fucking loser.
You ever heard of the phrase like he who lives in a glass house should not throw stones? It's like maybe the dude that looks like the human incarnation of Pee Wee Herman should not be making fun of what NHL players look like.
What they look like. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Got his ass.
Like
get him.
I would love to also ask this question on social somehow if we make like a little post about this. If you had to choose, like, I was gonna say 5, but I'll choose 3. If you had to choose like 3 out of market broadcasts, you're like, I have to listen to this one and not that one. What would they be? Because for me personally, and I don't know the names of the announcers, Detroit, great broadcast. They're
always. Great. What's his face and Ken Daniels? They are fantastic.
Yes,
I actually like Seattle a lot. Isn't that Forsland? Or
Forsland's really good.
Yep.
They're not in my pick, probably because they're too new. Like I haven't listened to a ton of them before.
I hear Forsland. I think Hurricanes. It just pisses me off. That's
isn't
what does
Eddie
it for
O
me.
with Seattle now too, though?
Yeah, he is.
So and I love Eddie. So
Colorado is my second. Don't know the name of the guy, but he's electric. And third, excluding Canadian, because like it's so fucked up how they do it. Sometimes it's TSN, sometimes it's Sportsnet. Right. It's like you never know.
I will say though, if there is a Canadian team on ESPN Plus, I always choose the Canadian broadcast over the American broadcast.
Oh, easy. Rangers. Rosen's awesome.
He's not bad.
If I'm watching Rosen's great. Come on, I hate the Rangers, but Rosen's really good.
Yeah, I have some trauma to deal with from my high school, middle school
I'm with
age.
You on that one. I'm not going to comment here.
There's a certain Game 7 that
listen,
I don't want to talk about that.
I get it. He's very good though. I have to give it to him.
Yeah, I would also put Dallas in there too. Okay. Maybe it's just because they're exciting right now, but I don't think they're all that bad.
Yes, I can get behind that one. I can get that. Try to think if there's any other ones.
I hate Philly. Philly's really bad.
Philly's bad. St. Louis is decent with Panger. I like St. Louis. But yeah, I'd say my 3 are probably Colorado. Yeah, Colorado, Rosen with New York. I can't even remember what the other fucking one.
You said Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit.
Yeah, there you go. I'd love to ask listeners that.
It's a good question.
Thank you, Nick. Good guys of the week. I'll let you have it.
Yeah, good guys of the week. We go from like the Jack Edwards of the week, which, by the way, that's a thing now, to the good guys of the week. So 4 players of the WHL's Brandon Wheat Kings, amazing hockey team name, by the way. Can we just say that? They were actually able to help a man who was contemplating suicide earlier this week. Calder Anderson, Nola Ritchie, and Ben Thornton and Jake Chason were driving around the city after leaving like a Samaritan House program they were doing. When they saw a guy standing on a bridge, they were able to get out of the car, talk to the guy, calm him down, call 911, and ended up saving the guy's life. So huge shout out to them. Just shows the kind of guys that hockey players are.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you say than that, Nick? I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's
Feel good
incredible
story.
stuff. Yeah, incredible
Love
stuff.
it. Good work. Good work, boys.
All right, let's talk about around the league real quick. But before we do, I think Nick has a word from our sponsor, Kane Footwear.
I do. You guys know that, recovery is important. Mac was dealing with recovery from his illness. I was recovering from my eyeballs. Recovery is very important. And that's why we really encourage you guys this holiday season to get stocked up from Kane Footwear. The Kane Revive is made with bounce back foam with sugar cane technology in there. It is fantastic. I've been wearing my canes in, out of the house all week. I've had like 10 people, as I've been going to all these follow-up doctor appointments, ask me what they are, where to get them, stuff like that. Most comfortable shoes you will ever own. Go check them out today. The link is in our bio. Kane Footwear. Thank you for sponsoring this podcast.
3 stars of the week. Number 1, Chucky Lindgren of the Washington Capitals. What do you know? Mac's been hyping this guy all season. Chucky, number 1 star of the
He's
week.
on my fantasy team, baby.
Fuck.
Speak of the devil. Fantasy hockey update. Let's do that, boys.
1 sec. Tage Thompson, number 2. William Nylander, number 3. Those are your 3 stars of the week. What's up?
Fantasy hockey update.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's talk about
Let's get him.
how Team Bat Dust got completely bat dusted.
Yo.
I don't have a goalie. I really don't. Like, I thought Sorokin was the guy, but they've been playing Varlamov a lot.
And guess who has Varlamov?
I asked.
Let's talk about real quick, Nick. Who we owe a big thank you to, because
We
for those
do.
of you listening, I wanted Nick to beat Harry because I'm in the same division as Harry and we have a similar record. And there may or may not have been some collusion going on.
There was some friendly advice going back and
conversing
forth
about who might be able to help certain teams, and I simply recommended that Nick pick up a guy who was a free agent, a man by the name of Large Stoppage David.
You guys might know him as Big Save Dave.
Dave Riddick.
Yeah, but Large Stoppage David came up clutch for me.
Mhm.
Absolutely clutch.
So Mac told you to pick up someone because you were playing me.
We were bouncing ideas off of each other.
Yeah, we were just kind of spitballing,
This was
Fuck
also
you guys.
like
That should
right.
be illegal.
It's not illegal. I would
That's
do that for
illegal.
you.
I would never do that for you.
It's not like I
thanks.
dropped somebody so he could pick him up. He was just a
Yeah.
free freaking agent. I just was like, hey, if you need a
I would
goalie,
never
go get
help
this guy.
anybody. Maybe
We
that's
weren't
selfish.
playing each other.
and no,
Yes,
and
we
Nick's
were.
in the you guys were.
No, like
Nick,
Mac and I.
Nick and I
weren't.
weren't playing each other. Also, Nick is in the other division, and his record doesn't affect me really very much.
But mine does.
Yeah, I want you to lose.
It's like an indirect, fucked up 3-way. If
Harry,
you really want my
how many
opinion here.
times do I have to remind you that during hockey season, you and I are mortal enemies?
Oh, I have no doubt of that. But I would not. I can genuinely tell you, I don't think I would give Nick advice if he was playing you in effort for you to lose.
I like Nick. He's cool.
Thanks,
don't-
man.
I don't.
It's nice to know that someone on this podcast does.
I don't.
No,
his vision's too blurry for me.
This was. Hey, I'm actually 2020 as of yesterday.
There you go.
That's really
This was also
26.
while I was putting together a trade with Jackson. So
That I vetoed. Yeah.
Yeah,
which
that
I
was a
don't
good trade.
understand why there was so
I
much
just wanted to fuck. I
backlash
just want to fuck with you.
in the Discord
I
about
understand
that.
why, but
Yeah.
I need some trades in my future. I don't have a goalie. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And
I've
actually,
got
my
3
whole team's
now if you
hurt.
want to talk. I didn't have
Anyway,
any.
I have 5, so
Yeah,
My
Mac
whole team,
literally has 5.
my whole damn team's hurt too.
I
It's annoying.
also started 0-3, and now I have like the same record as Harry. So no big
Yeah,
deal.
I've been
It's
cold lately,
That's
but
chill.
it'll come around.
The division you guys are in is
Gauntlet.
like,
Gauntlet.
and then the division I'm in, it's just like Fellers is just gone. Like
Yeah.
no one's gonna touch him.
Yeah, of course.
Tomas.
I need to. Can I move divisions?
I thought that I ran.
You wanna
First of all,
swap
I
1 for 1?
randomized the divisions when I made this, and I thought like just eyeball tests, like before we drafted teams, I was like, oh, this will probably be fair. Like just based on who I thought would draft good teams and who I thought is like usually good in the league, I was like, nah, this will be good. It's fucked.
It's one division's like A squad, other division's like B squad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick little gambling tidbits. I mean, you talk about hot teams. Both of our teams right now, probably the 2 hottest teams in the league. The Leafs 9-0-1 in their last 10. Man, they are absolutely humming at the moment. The Pens 8-1-1 in their last 10. They're also humming. The Caps are 7-2-1 in their last 10, and they've won 5 straight. They're also humming. So any of those 3 teams, I mean, if you're looking for some good value when they're up against a formidable opponent, example, the Pens against the Stars the other night, you're going to get some good value for a hot team.
Hell yeah. Love it.
This one also tripped me up. I can't believe this is a real stat, but 50% of Leon Draisaitl's games have hit the over 1.5 points. So do with that information what you will, as Mac would say, but that's just a wild stat. Also, the Oilers played the Predators last night, and anytime they play the Preds, they just feast on them. So
Why do I feel like the name of the game is going to be like shifting from McDavid over 1.5 to just doing him and Leon over 1.5, like separately and parlayed every night?
Yeah,
because
I mean,
at least if the parlay doesn't hit, like one of them's going to get it. So
on the day you're listening to this, when this drops Thursday, the Oilers play the St. Louis Blues at home. Our good friend Jordan Binnington that we just talked about has been letting up a lot of goals. So just something to keep an eye on. Real quick, let's talk suspensions. Jeff Skinner, he sucks. He's suspended for 3 games after being a complete coward for cross-checking Jake Gensel in the face and knocking his teeth out. That was a horrible play. I can't believe he did that. He should be expelled from the NHL, in my opinion.
You were pretty fired up about that one, if I
Jesus.
remember correctly.
Dude, that was the cheapest shot I've ever seen. He literally took like the shaft of his stick and just wrecked Jake like in the teeth, and he escalated the entire thing. I was pretty fired up. I was like,
I was so close to trading for Jeff Skinner in fantasy like a week ago. Like I'm talking so close. I was like hovering over the like accept trade button, and then I just was like, I can't do this. And I'm glad.
Do you remember
Well,
the other time he got suspended for kicking someone?
Yeah.
Remind me who did he kick? Do you remember?
I don't remember who he kicked.
I don't remember
but I
who he
remember
kicked, but
like
I remember
seeing the
that.
article of when this came out, and it said the only other time that he was suspended in the NHL was like it was I think like well over 5 years ago for kicking someone.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like something that scumbag would do.
Which, like, I mean, when you have like skates on your feet, is kind of a dick move.
Fucked up move. Yeah. Seattle Kraken's Jamie Alexiak suspended 3 games for the hit on Capitals. Alexiev, thoughts, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I mean, this one was rough to watch. The principal point of contact was kind of Alexiev's mouth face. So he's on IR right now. I texted you both when this happened and said I wanted 3 games, but we got 3 games, so I'll take it.
Yeah. Spot on. Brutal hit, especially given the situation with the Caps. Like we just can't be losing people right now. And especially not defensemen, so that one hurt a lot. But yeah, not a good hit. Deserving of 3.
Moving on to injuries, we got Jacob Voracek telling the media that he's feeling okay, but the chances of him returning this season are extremely slim. He had a head injury. That's why he's been out. It's probably the 7th or 8th of his career. So hope that Voracek is going to be okay. The Avalanche, they'll be without Nathan McKinnon for about 4 weeks due to an upper body injury. The Panthers have placed Hornquist on long-term IR with a concussion. Shea Theodore of the Vegas Golden Knights, thanks on my fantasy team, out week to week. Jason Zucker of the Penguins, also out week to week. And Jeff Petrie of the Penguins has been placed on a long-term IR.
Hey, real quick, Jeff Skinner got suspended when he was on the Hurricanes for kicking some guy named Scott Nickel on the Blues.
Who?
So, yeah, I don't know.
He'll probably end up being a guest one day. Watch.
Scott, we would love to have you.
We'd love to have
talk
you.
about this intense
Mr.
karate
Nickel.
match you got in on ice with Jeff Skinner.
Mr. Nickel, we would love to hear the story firsthand.
Yeah.
This is how this works. There'll be a group chat. Usually it's like Nick or Mac will give him credit and they'll be like, hey, like this guy used to play here. He did this. I follow him on Instagram. He's right in that wheelhouse of the follower count we want. Let's get him on the show. Like, can we do it this? I'm like, sure. And then next thing you know, boom, you meet someone and there it is.
That or like one of us will send a YouTube video. It's like, hey, remember this?
Yeah, it's kind of how it works. Let's do real quick State of the Union. I know this one's running long. Caps go first. What do you guys got to say?
Hot, daddy. This team is hot right now.
Sexy.
Yeah. Won their last 5
Good.
in a row.
Good hockey team.
Yeah. Things are coming together, but Mac, I think you made a great point earlier. Right now, the name of the game is stay healthy. There's so many guys on the back end are banged up. Faravari, Orlov. Jesus, who else?
Yeah.
It's like just stay healthy at this
Orlov's
point.
back in the lineup, so hopefully that sticks. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I do like, obviously, that Backstrom and Wilson are traveling with the team now, so that's an encouraging sign. Hopefully that means they'll be back relatively soon. And one other thing, just to touch on the OV 800 goal thing one more time, I feel like that's the kind of thing that can really galvanize a group, right? I mean, that's a really feel good moment for the whole team. It's something that you can kind of build around, hopefully build off of. So I'm hoping we can maybe see them kind of go on a run here and keep the good vibes going. I feel like typically when you look back at some of Ovi's big milestones, it's had some domino effects in a good way on the team. So I'm hoping for more of the same with that this time around.
You touched on it a little bit earlier that they're not too many points out of a wild card spot. And that's the name of the game, as I've been saying for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, is just stay around where the Rangers and Penguins are in this division come the break.
Yeah, Nick, you've been really consistent saying that, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, as long as you guys are staying in the hunt, it's all about the home stretch really for you guys, I think. So,
especially if we can stay in the hunt just until Wilson and Backstrom are actually back in the lineup too, like that's going to make a world of a difference.
For sure.
How's Kemper looked? I mean, granted, Chucky might be
goalie
number 1.
I don't know. That one's a weird one too.
Goalie controversy in Washington? No,
not yet, but getting there.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
that would never happen with
that
you
was
guys.
pretty cool. What I will say is kind of crazy. Imagine you're Hunter Shepard for a second. For those of you who don't know, that's our current backup, the guy backing up our backup. And you just got called up just in time to be a part of the whole freaking OV 800 goal situation. Like if you watch the Caps video from last night in the locker room of them all like throwing beer and celebrating, like he's right in the thick of it. Hunter Shepard in the fucking goalie pad. It's like
incredible look. Like after all the guys like pour onto the ice, you just see Hunter Shepard with like his hat on and just this massive
curly
hair.
Freaking,
I love it. Like what a beauty.
Pretty cool. Pretty sick to be him right now, I'd imagine.
Moving on to the Penguins. I mean, kind of the same story as the Caps right now. They're hot. They've won 6 in a row. Won back-to-backs against Buffalo pleasantly. Just beat a really good Stars team at home. And, you know, they've been on a little bit of a homestand here, but now they're going to head out on the road for their next 2. They're going to be playing the Panthers, who have been pretty good this season, honestly. And then they play Carolina, and then they come back home to the Rangers in Carolina again. So some road games coming up, 4 games before the Christmas break. See how they do. Crosby, I mean, man, he's just carrying the team right now. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we talked about it a little bit before the show. I mean, I've been pumping Crosby's tires left and right. Ovechkin's only got 4 less points than him so far this year. So I think Ovi deserves a little more credit than he's getting as well. But yeah, I mean, the Pens look good. Jari has really turned it around. I mean, he should honestly, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit homer here, but if he puts together another 4 or 5 wins in a row, he's going to be in the Vezina finalist conversation, come January. I really believe that. He's playing really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Petrie being out sucks. Zucker being out sucks. They've both been real good for us. So we'll see what happens. Not sure, but I can assure you they will finish higher than the Washington Capitals in the standings.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mac will have a nice, pretty black and yellow jersey behind him on his
So
right ear.
that's still on, right? Like you guys are still doing that.
I need to go back and listen to the terms because I don't even know if the standings
I kind of
matter.
forget too. I also for a while was just assuming it was off because I thought both of these two teams were so dog shit.
And now they're hot.
Yeah. So I don't know. We might need to like renegotiate the terms or something like that. But something's gonna happen. We'll have some sort of fucking ordeal here.
I need a goalie. Trade me something fantasy, and I'll think of some renegotiation.
There we go.
We can collude. We run the league. I mean, we run the pod.
I've got 5 of them, so take your pick.
we can collude against all the other ones. Maybe there's a little power trip here that we can work out. But
by the way, you're only allowed to have 4 goalies on your roster technically, but one of mine is on IRR. One of mine is on IR, which is why I'm allowed to have 5 technically.
Can you play someone on IR? Can someone show me how to do that?
No, you have to. Wait, what do you?
Like, it's like fantasy, when you go to like manage your lineup, like go to edit your lineup, and then like top right of the screen it says manage IR, and you have to like manually put them there.
That was my question.
But they can't be day to day. They have to be
they have to be out or IR, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Which is like the day to day thing is the most frustrating thing ever. But yeah.
Before we wrap up here, Nick, I know you got some things you want to say.
Yeah. So obviously I was down for the count for a week. I had LASIK done. It's great to see you boys in 2020. First time I'm seeing 2020 in like 28 years. So that's awesome. Never have to deal with contacts again. That's awesome. So
jealous.
But I think I kind of had like one of the most stressful days of eye surgery because I actually sold the Jag like 2 hours before I went to go get LASIK done. So I'm like, and for anyone that's ever sold a car, I sold this through eBay. If you've ever had to go through that process, you know how stressful this is. I'm finally done with that chapter in my life. And boys, I can say, holy shit, while I had some good memories with that car, I am so glad to be like done with it. It's just, we're not we're not, you don't own a classic car. You're a caretaker of it. I'm glad it's on to its next caretaker. And I am so far done. I will never own any British car ever again. Done. Absolutely never, ever happening again.
Well, happy for you. Proud of you.
Very happy for you.
I mean, did the guy, I have to ask this, did the guy drive on the highway to take it home or did he?
The guy drove it home. So
holy shit.
He drove it home.
I guess so.
You might want to check the paper.
How did he get to you?
So like, I guess like one of his buddies drove him down, but I mean, it's selling a car over eBay is not an easy thing. You're dealing with so many things.
Did you tell him
you're
like,
probably
hey,
trying
dude.
to act the whole time he's there. You're trying to act like, yeah, it's so sick, man.
Slaps the roof. What are you talking about? This thing's
It's
great.
It's just, I've had so many good drives.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think he broke down on the highway? I mean,
I have no idea, but he didn't call me after the deal and we have signed paperwork. So
I was going to say, is there any sort of like fucking like he
oh
can
no,
return it or
that
anything?
was an
Or
as-is sale.
Okay.
Yeah,
was like,
when you buy a car sight unseen over eBay, that's an as-is sale, my friend.
Beautiful.
So happy to be done with that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm glad that we had some good memories. Harry, you got to drive it, so
yeah, I couldn't really hit the brakes. It was a lot, but
no,
yeah, it was cool.
you need all your legs to get those brakes to work.
Yeah, to build those quads up. You got some birthday shout outs? Is that my understanding?
I do. One birthday shout out. Shout out to Kelly Shea, the Juice. Her dad Pat listens to every single episode, so I know he and I are going to be having some beers on Saturday. So Pat, we're looking forward to it.
Happy birthday!
You guys got anything fun planned for the holiday coming up?
I'm flying to Dallas day after tomorrow for my cousin's wedding.
Ooh.
There you go.
All my family's gonna be there. It's gonna be a blast. But because of that, and because it's so close to Christmas, for the actual holiday, we're not gonna be really convening or anything because it's tough enough to get days off work and all that, especially with a new job. So I'll be spending it with the lady in Chicago.
Very nice. I have my usual family Christmas Eve celebration. Going to be loud, going to be crazy, but boys, I just have to say this Christmas season has just been absolutely fantastic. Much less stressed out this year. Don't really hate my life at all.
Good.
Yeah.
Love
to
that.
hear that.
We love to hear that.
Wonder why.
I can't think of any reason.
I can't
Yeah,
think of nothing.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Must be the Jag.
Yeah.
That's what it
Now
is.
it's finally going.
Mac, I was looking when you just said you're gonna be in Dallas, I was like, damn, that'd be a cool place to see a game, but they're not home again until Wednesday, December 21st.
Damn.
So you won't be there at that time.
No, I will not. I'm there
play-
Friday to Monday.
Yeah, that sucks. Damn, I was hoping that maybe you'd be able to see something down there.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been a crazy month, man. I mean, it's the first time in a month that we've all gotten to record together. Christmas is next week, so be on the lookout for tweets about updates for schedules. We might have to work around some stuff, but other than that, thank you so much for listening. Happy holidays to everybody.
We'll see you in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's gonna be a chaotic recording schedule probably for the next couple of weeks, but bear with us, and we are super pumped to come to Elwoods in Milwaukee.
Just over a month.
Our last
over
trip
a
to
month.
Elwoods was so mellow.
Yeah, I don't. It was so relaxing. I don't even remember it.
Exactly.
Exactly. Very chill vibe.
I'll make sure I bring my flip flops up there this time. All right, everybody. Thank you for the love and support as always. We appreciate it. And without further ado,
Class dismissed.